Gaming news today is all about Battlefield 6 gunning for Call of Duty, and the big question is, can they pull it off? The Battlefield 6 beta alone is setting records both for the game as well as seemingly being able to surpass numbers that Call of Duty has put up in the past. And even industry veterans are weighing in, claiming that Call of Duty better watch out, even though the leadership at Activision expressed a total lack of concern with this actual topic, this issue being like, well, we're too big to fail. We're going to take a look at the player numbers, the cheating situation. They have spoken to how the anti-cheat is working. There's also comments from a former Blizzard higher up, and where the true battle brewing between the two games really lies. Now, we also have other gaming news to discuss. The price of GTA 6 is back in the headlines. The Horizon knockoff game that started a lawsuit from Sony against Tencent, well, they've made some changes already. Seemingly, they are trying to prepare for that lawsuit. And what we've been doing lately with the show is there'll be timestamps below. If there aren't timestamps, leave a comment, bark at me, say, hey, where are the timestamps? Because sometimes I go from this stream to, gameplay, and I don't have a chance to do them right away. But I do try to put those timestamps for these various topics, and we just sort of open up the show with a more general conversation. Now, we have made some changes with respect to how we are going to continue to promote the generosity of this community. We're sort of going to get back to our roots. Every 25 members, or on Twitch subs, every 25 I will be gifting. We're gonna lower the amount I was gifting, though, just because we are unaware of conversion rates and things that are sort of kept out of the frame for us that could lead to that being unproductive for me, or like anti sorry, that could be like sort of like anti-helpful, like not helpful. It could be sort of working against our aims here, but we still want to continue to grow the community. We still want to continue to do those fun streams on Friday night where we kind of celebrate and have those goals. So we're going to get back to our roots. That was always kind of fun having that happen, but it was harmful, and those adjustments that we're making should let us do the thing we've always done without necessarily harming the future of what we're trying to do here. Because many channels, many content creators, they've moved their stuff to Patreon. They've moved their content to be completely and totally behind paywalls. And we are fan funded here, and I would like to keep it that way. I would just like to let's not make any major changes. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. We've had such a great time building this channel the last 4 years. We don't want to lose what we've built because of a minor oversight that can now be corrected. So if you're like, I don't even know what you're talking about, don't worry about it. We're getting back to our roots. We're returning to form. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And if you want to help what we're doing, I am so sorry. I feel like I cleared my throat enough this morning, but apparently I didn't. If you're wanting to help out, the best way to help out is to click that join button, pick Member Plus for $6, and support the channel directly. That is a great way to keep this thing where it is right now, which is on a nice foundation that we can build on to cover gaming news, to get into review access and other things, and to have those opportunities, and just to provide a great place for people to hang out. I mean, if you are a member, you have a Discord, you have a community you can be communicating with all of the time. Those are things that we're continuing to try to foster here in a landscape of gaming news that's continually disappointing, and communities can be toxic and channels can be toxic. We are trying to foster something that we think is positive and worth your time, and that is why we have the Discord set up the way we do. That's why we set up these live streams the way that we do. So the other thing that really helps is the free stuff, right? It's free to hit like, it's free to subscribe, it's free to leave a comment, it's free to chat. Those things are super helpful, so don't forget your rituals whenever you come in to a live stream. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you guys so much for being here. Hopefully you had a great weekend. It looked like a bunch of you were having a blast with the Battlefield 6 beta. I did not get a chance to jump back in and turn off crossplay to see if that would help my experience. I had a great first game, and then my second game, Hilly joined me, and I think we got kind of thrown into sweaty PC land. And it was not fun. And I was like, I thought it was skill-based matchmaking. Apparently people were saying, no, turn off crossplay. You'll have a better time. We are hearing that the one map in particular that I pointed out was a bit of a problem. I said, listen, that's not going to work with the sniper glints up on the mountainside, up on the hillside. Like, that's not going to work for game design when you're spawning and immediately seeing 4 and 5 sniper glints. And Han shot first, and so did you. Let's get back to basics here, boys. Glenn Schofield does a single gifted, and then so does my man Joker Quinn. We can kind of get back to those amazing setups where you guys kind of bait people into doing the big member bombs and just continue to bless people and pay it forward. So thank you so much, Joker Quinn and Glenn Schofield. Well, the new Battlefield, me and my squad went crazy this weekend. Can't wait for the game to come out. I mean, the numbers are certainly speaking to where this game could go. Now, some people are pushing back and they're saying, well, it's free, it's a beta, it might not be that way when the game comes out. And somebody's asking, should I buy the game on PC or PS5 Pro? I mean, that's a question that you would have to answer. Where do you primarily want to play this game? Where do you primarily want to engage? Like, that's something that is going to be determined by your own player habits, I would imagine. Yo, good morning, Gone Kid. How are you? I downloaded it, but I never got the chance to try it out myself. Looks amazing, though, from what I've seen so far on YouTube. Yeah, my kiddos didn't even get to have their, weekly gaming session on Saturday because we had soccer practice. Soccer's back up and running, so we had 2 soccer practices. I'm coaching both teams again. Then we had 2 birthday parties. It was a busy day. It was a very, very busy day. It's fun having a busy and chaotic weekend, I love it. When this time of year kind of spins up, it's like I've got all these other things going on. But it does make it harder for me to play those games on the weekend. So I'll be happy to dive in to Battlefield 6 gameplay, especially the campaign, when the game comes out. That is what I'm looking forward to the most. And possibly we could do some community game nights with you guys and kind of try to just dive in and have some fun. Maybe not get so sweaty. It's almost impossible in these games. I feel like the sweat is inevitable. It's like you usually can have a week or so of people playing, and it's kind of chill. And then the meta settles, and everybody knows the secret spots and the cheeses. I've seen videos of guys like, here's how you get up on the road, and here's how you get there. And I'm like, oh, here we go. J-Dog with 40 whole months of memberships, man. Welcome back. Thank you so much, J-Dog. Getting the week started off right. We're still going to continue to run that incentive where 500 and you unlock a Friday night stream with Madam and I. Can be a really, really great time. We are hoping to get the music channel up and running as soon as possible. Those of you that subbed, thank you. The playlist is obviously unlisted for now. We're going to fix those lyrics. That'll be something we're going to make a priority. And then you guys will be able to, we're going to try to get that channel monetized, but I want to wait until we kind of have that album fixed so we can kind of have a better, not such a soft launch. A soft launch was obviously exciting for some here that we're waiting, but we want to make sure we want to make sure that we do it right. And Glenn Schofield with 7 months says, check out Echoes of the End, comes out tomorrow. Looks like another Souls-like. I don't think it's a Souls-like. I don't think they even describe it as a Souls-like. Thank you for renewing for 7 months, Glenn. I believe it's just an action-adventure game with an emphasis on combat. Oh, I missed these ones over here. I'm so sorry. Clown Slick with a Prime resub and Tycho with a Prime resub. Both of you, 8 months and 3 months. Thank you so much. Those renewals go far. If you guys are paying for Prime, be sure to use those Prime subs every single month. And we haven't been able to say this for a long time, but we are in that nice spot where somebody could drop that 20 bomb and steal that first milestone. So thank you guys so much for being here. Appreciate you guys supporting what we do with your primes, with your likes, with everything. So make sure we get those first 100 likes on YouTube as well. If you're interested, today's sort of lead topic is, can Battlefield 6 actually take on Call of Duty? So everybody, I think, is sort of seeing things through that lens right now. Battlefield 6 versus Call of Duty. Can you take on the Titan that is COD? And I don't know where I land on this. I feel like we've been here so many times where a game comes out, it swings really hard, everybody's playing it, everybody's excited, I should say. My question is always, can it survive that torrent of players, whether it's from the cheating or just the feedback, or if people get kind of toxic and exploity, if metas settle in? A month or two in, will it still be hitting this same fever pitch? Right? The sound alone. Oh yeah, the sound design in Battlefield 6 is incredible. Thank you so much, Kenneth, for renewing your membership for 29 months. You guys, if you want those memberships to count, we need as many people at Member Plus and above as we can get. So consider upgrading. Use that upgrade command, because the gifted member tier is reserved for gifted. So if you have to stay on a gifted, we're glad you're here. We're glad somebody is helping you out and doing that. But if you can, bump that up if you don't mind. And Tech over here with 42 months of subs on Purple ties it up, takes the total for the week to 6, and the member battle is now at a dead even tie. We will see who walks away with it. Every 25 I'm going to gift, and we're getting back to our roots. We're just going to adjust that slightly, but we are getting back to what we've done for such a long time. Wire Rope says, screw this place. He says, Peepo Fingers. Thank you so much, Wire Rope, for continuing to support in both places. We appreciate it so much. But that 7 is going to quickly become a 12 as the first 5 bomb of the week comes in from Glenn Schofield, and he takes this up to a 9. Thank you so much. It's 9-3 right now between the platforms. Thank you so much. Only Infinity Ward COD's your fave. I hope you feel better, Lady Gamer. Appreciate you so much. And a hype train is starting over here on Purple. Not sure why. Maybe because there was 3 resubs so close together. Did the PC version have more cheaters than console? I think in general that's going to be the way that it goes. Like, your risk of running into cheaters is significantly higher on PC because on console you can turn off crossplay. So as you guys come in, I have paused that thing that nobody likes. So give us some likes. Make sure you're hitting that like button. And a 5 bomb from Wire Rope over here on Purple, making it interesting as he plays both sides of the field. It's now 17 on the week. It is 8-9 between the platforms. And remember, whoever gets it to the milestone is who gets the gifted. So whoever makes us hit 25, that's who's getting the gifted. I had more fun in the few hours I played yesterday in a beta than I did in a few months playing Black Ops 6. Okay, let's talk about that. Do you think, how much is new car smell? Like, just, sort of reflect. And maybe, I'm not saying be honest. I'm saying just do some self-reflection and be honest about, like, is there some new car smell going on here? Jake Breaks comes in with 13 months for Purple and gets us a little bit closer, but now the face-off is tied. I'm not saying it's not a good game. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying a really, really good game can almost seem, I don't know, it can seem like a breath of fresh air, a glass of cold water on a hot day, right? You're burned out, you're tired of COD, you're tired of this, you're tired of that, and this can seem like, oh, this is what I've been waiting for. Do you see this being like the game that you kind of do the same thing? Like, you put all that time with Call of Duty, do you think you're going to put in the same amount of time in this game? Months later, you still rocking out Battlefield. Now, Hilly says it's not new car smell, it's a new effing car and it drives great. Right, so Hilly, take that analogy. Is this going to become your main car? I'm speaking to the people who have played a ton of Call of Duty. They've lived in Call of Duty. Maybe that's kind of their default game. Do you think Battlefield can become that for you? Because they are offering a host of options. They've got the classic Battlefield, game types. They've got the more stripped down game types like Team Deathmatch, and we know there's that free Battle Royale coming. Battlefield 6 is my new main game. It's so back. Okay, so you guys think that. You think, no, this is the game I'm going to be playing. This is it. I'm going to kind of move away from maybe Call of Duty or something, whatever it is that you were playing, and you think, yeah, I want to play this now. This is going to become my new. Okay, people in chat are saying it's their new main FPS. Okay. I'm not going to remember all of your names, but 3 months after launch, I'm going to be very curious if that stays true. I am. If you're right, if what you guys are saying is in fact correct, and there's a lot of people that feel the same way as you, and 3 months in, the tide has turned, that will be pretty significant, I think, in the history of these two franchises, that Battlefield was able to actually take a chunk out of the monster, out of the Titan, out of the god, which is COD. That if they can actually pull that off, I think that'll be interesting. Because my personal opinion is, it's far more likely that we get the typical response here. It's 2 months of honeymoon, roughly, and then a lot of folks going to go back home. Now, I'm not saying those of you saying this are going to go back to Call of Duty. I just wonder if you're going to be like, yeah, I'm just kind of burned out on these games and this franchise, this style. Like, is COD the actual enemy, or is it more of just like a genre fatigue? And this just feels so new and fresh that the fatigue's not there, because it is very different. I mean, with the the vehicle's destructibility, the size and the scope. Sound design alone really is, I think, is extremely immersive in a game like this. Make sure as you guys are coming in, you're smashing that like button. Try to get us the first 100 likes really, really quickly. That is extremely helpful. It's like Madden versus FIFA. Perfect Image says, I haven't played Battlefield 6 for so long. I was enjoying Mafia: The Old Country. Yeah, I saw Lobo say that I need to get back to the game, and maybe I didn't give it enough time. My issue with Mafia wasn't that it was, bad. It was that, it was like they had built this foundation for, this humongous game. And after the dust sort of settled on their design work and sort of their scope and what they thought that they could do, they had to trim a lot. That's been kind of my feeling about it, was that... Why is that not showing up in chat? Was that it's got this super broad scope in the beginning. Everything is very slow. Everything's very drawn out. And that's not a problem at all for a 20-hour game. But for a game where 2 hours in, I've got roughly 8 hours left, and I felt like I haven't done much in the vein of gameplay, my issue was not qualitative. It was this is a weird pacing decision for a game that's so short. Now, if I would have finished that 2-hour opener, and I know I've got another 15 hours ahead of me, I'd have been like, oh yeah, that made sense as an opener. So I was never, I don't think in my criticism of that game, I was never critical of the quality. I was like, this is amazing. I feel like I'm watching a dadgum TV show. I think the better question is, who is satisfied with 3 months or so they go hard in the live service if they're interested in the next one? That has been COD's strength. They have a ton of automatic buy for the next game. Nicki Minaj is running around with loud hot pink guns. How is that Call of Duty? Well, and I think that's not the only criticism, but that's been one of the criticisms as of late, is that Call of Duty has lost its identity. When you've got Beavis and Butthead and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Nicki Minaj running around, this gets to something that I have called the Fortnite-ification of gaming. So Fortnite has had an impact on, number one, the huge emphasis on live service. There's all these companies that want to grab the live service bag of gold. What's good, Feed? I see you in the chat. But the other, I think, less noticeable effect that Fortnite has had on the industry is that everybody thinks they can just puke pop culture onto their game and it won't have detrimental effects. Well, people like Nicki Minaj, right? People like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? And it's like, well, sure, but Ian Malcolm said it quite brilliantly in Jurassic Park. You didn't ask just that if you could. You should have asked, is this something that we should do, right? You were too busy with the idea of well, we could do this, and you never asked if you should. If you're trying to make Call of Duty great, if you're trying to make Call of Duty this cemented franchise that's ever growing and ever stronger, you lose your identity, you'll start to lose players. For me, it really depends which one my squad will end up choosing. Nicki Minaj is a very polarizing figure. They put her in the game for that reason, and that reason only. People are dumb and they like shiny things. I mean, but at the same time, loyalty from players is usually sort of grown, established, and then continued to be ingratiated through having an identity. I think this is something that in some of my research for some of my Destiny content, I started to get this vibe that the identity of the game slipped and it suddenly just became a chore. There was no longer this mystique. There was no longer this mystery. There was no longer this sense of oh yeah, this is Destiny. It was, oh no, this is literally just a grind. This is just a chore. This is a treadmill. Once that mask slips, you lose people, right? Because, the Destiny player base, we've talked about this quite a bit. Well, Call of Duty could be facing similar challenges that, well, you've done all of this in the name of money, just puking pop culture all over your game. you lose your identity, and people don't really know what they're loyal to anymore. They don't really know what their allegiance is tied to. It's just this mindless run around and shoot, and everybody kind of looks like a pop culture reference. It's gross to profit so much from it, but adding wacky characters or people to games has been fairly common with mods. The difference between doing it with mods is that I don't have to see you running around Skyrim with Thomas the Tank Engine. I can play Skyrim in its purest form, as God intended, right? With no mods. I'm obviously kidding, right? God doesn't care about Skyrim and mods. No, but you get the point that I'm making. Like, if I'm going to boot up Call of Duty and I want to go shoot and throw grenades and frag out with my buds, seeing Beavis and Butthead and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Nicki Minaj, it is very much diluting to the experience, right? Imagine you're a big fan of a fighting game and you boot up and you pick Chun-Li and the other guy can mod his character, and now you're fighting against Barney the dinosaur. You'd be like, well, this is a little unnerving. Like, once you might laugh, but then like the more it happens, the more it sort of chisels away against the game's identity, and you're just playing some goofy shell of a game. You're playing just some like pop culture storefront that is more, interested in selling microtransactions than having a game with an identity and a feel and a vibe. Like, we've talked about this with art direction in games and how this is going to seem way out in left field, but I'm going to bring it all home. I have said that Hi-Fi Rush is always going to look like a good game. Hi-Fi Rush will always look good. There's a reason that Sunset Overdrive still looks like a good game. Why? Well, the art direction, the identity. It's like you know within 2 seconds you know that you're looking at Hi-Fi Rush. Nobody needs to tell you. If you've seen it before, you know exactly what you're looking at. That's true in these games as well. That like that art direction, that identity, that's important. That's kind of part of the charm. But I mean, an online deathmatch, how far back can we go to find downloadable character models? Honestly, I can't remember. What did you play after Unreal Tournament? After Unreal Tournament, I shifted to Call of Duty, and Call of Duty was not doing this stuff until very recently. I mean, when I stopped playing around Black Ops 3. There were never cheesy player models and pop culture things like that. Now, there might be some like, marijuana jokes with some of the emblems you could get and stuff, but it wasn't. That was obviously appealing to a culture, right? Gamer culture very much had a lot of dudes back then smoking the green, and still does today. A lot of you have switched to gummies because you're getting old and you don't like coughing. But you get the point that like the identity of the games back then was not like, well, what's popular right now? Well, let's just throw some Marvel characters in there, things like that. That's why I call it the Fortnite-ification, right? The Fortnite-ification, where it's like everybody's convinced they can do what Fortnite has done. Fortnite as a palette, as a canvas, as a thing, that lets them do that. Deadpool can be running around, and so can Darth Vader. There's no... Fortnite never had this sort of centralized identity. It was always a bit goofy. It was always a bit cartoonish. It never took itself all that seriously. One of the things I actually think Fortnite rather smartly pushed against ever really wanting to cater to esports and really competitive people. They never really wanted to go down that lane, which is one of the reasons why the esport events for Fortnite are honestly kind of boring to watch. I'll be honest with you. I think they're kind of boring. I still think Keemstar's Friday Fortnite was the best version of competitive Fortnite because it was all about fun and racking up kills, not like puckering up in a box and sitting still. I still think that was the best event that Fortnite has ever had, and the fact that he had to stop doing it, I thought was a bit of a hit to the vibe of the game and the directory. But they always were very much not wanting to go down the lane of competitive battle royale. And I think that gave them the ability to have this sort of open canvas of, yeah, you can throw whatever you want in our game. It's not that serious. Call of Duty has had a vibe for a very long time as being more like a a little bit more serious. And obviously it's not like that when you play, but there's like there's the competitive nature, there's the teams, there's the esports. There's just the running around and dropping a bunch of kills. Feels a little bit different when you're shooting at a character that looks like Nicki Minaj or Beavis and Butthead. It makes more sense in free-for-all style games. Yes. And to be clear, I mean, Call of Duty has their Warzone. I mean, that's where you're going to see this mostly is players in Warzone running around, looking like that. I think Battlefield 6, Hilly says, has thought about this. The marketing was clear, the vision of the official game. They can do both with Portal and not lose their identity. They will likely have a few wacky things come along, but the move would be to have Portal-only items. They can keep official on point with art direction. I think this is the move. Plus, they already have said they will have verified stuff in Portal, and the tool looks amazing. They're trying to make Battlefield a new platform game, and they shield the core Battlefield modes so everyone's happy. Yeah, there's a big difference between somebody doing like a silly capture the flag game or like a goofy game with goofy rules, because that feels more like an offshoot. It's like, oh, well, we can go over here and do this party game thing through Portal or what have you, but that's not the main offering. You know what I mean? Why are people using Battlefield 6 to console war? Who is using Battlefield 6 to console war? It's like it's a multi-plat game. Everybody's loving it. Why would anybody console war? However, you saw players shift how they play if they're good. You saw them rage quit. Oh, I'm not sure what you were talking about. Is it just me, or are the Battlefield games more fun overall regardless of win-loss? I mean, when you're getting stomped, it's still not very fun. Like, you can have a really close game in Battlefield 6 and lose, and you're probably still having a good time. I would say that in general, the vibe of the game is more enjoyable if you're having a close game. So like the last time I played Call of Duty, the games felt, very much like I typically experience, where like I have a couple of fun games where I'm playing and then all of a sudden I'm in like really, really sweaty sweat boxes. I think it's harder for a couple of good players to bring that vibe. Camille, thank you so much for renewing your member and getting us to 19 on the week. Guys, we have returned to our roots. Every 25 I'm gifting, all right? We're going to be doing a single gifted to either platform because we felt like that was better. Oh, that was an upgrade. That counts as 2, which means you set it up. A 5 bomb for the first milestone of the week. Whoever hits it gets it. Let's see. It's Twitch and YouTube's chance to do the first one of the week. Narnia movie is now filming, starring Emma Mackey, Daniel Craig, Carey Mulligan, and Meryl Streep. Reportedly adapting The Magician's Nephew. This is a good starting point. No, if they're genuinely going to have Meryl Streep playing as Aslan, it'll be a freaking disaster, and I won't watch it. I have no interest in watching somebody completely tarnish and crap on a masterpiece. I'm just not interested. You're an idiot if you think that's not going to just grossly ruin the entire thing, and the person making it's an idiot if they think that's a good idea. I think you're getting stomped for more than 2 to 3 games in a row, especially on Conquest, then you're probably running and gunning, focusing on kills instead of class specialties and OBJ. Well, no, you can definitely get stomped, and that's not what's going on. I mean, you can get a couple of games where, like, you're not able to do much. I mean, it happens. I mean, me and Donnie and Hilly were playing, and it was bad. I mean, you couldn't move. They also have to do something about the sniper glints. Meryl Streep will be playing the witch. Earlier reports were that she was going to play Aslan, which, again, if she's playing the woman, because if it's Magician's Nephew, if she's playing the witch, well, she's not the White Witch when they find her because she's in Charn. But if she plays her, she'll be fantastic at that. But the earlier rumors with this, that they have her playing Aslan, I'm like, you're going to ruin the frickin' movie. No one's going to want to frickin' watch that. That's idiotic. That would be like, well, we decided in the Lord of the Rings to make Aragorn a woman. Like, it would have been like, what the frick? No, that you can't change the fabric of the entire like one of the central characters. It's idiotic. It depends on your team. You shouldn't be getting stomped over and over. Most games are pretty close. I mean, I don't think you're going to be getting stomped over and over. Surely not, especially if they have team balancing, running, and they're running some level of skill-based matchmaking. That should not be happening, right? If you have a couple of really bad games in a row, it should be sort of, rubber banding back into place, and you should be having a better experience. Now, I had people tell me, excuse me, when I had my bad experience, right? People were like, turn off crossplay, and I was like, oh well, that was later in the day and I wasn't playing. I was like, I'll have to try that, and then my weekend completely filled. I didn't get to play any games over the weekend. So hopefully, if they are finding there's too sharp of a pendulum swing sometimes where players are going from a fun game to a stomp, or there's a couple of stomps in a row, hopefully they can tweak that to make sure people are not having that experience. They have a very vested interest in people not having that experience because it'll make people quit, right? This is why they've got to invest in adjusting that one map where you literally spawn and all you see are sniper glints. You're like, oh, I just spawned and 4 people are already aiming at me, right? People are all pretty much in agreement that map's going to need adjusted to some degree. Whether you spawn people indoors, whether you make it a little bit harder to get in some of those spots, right? Like people are like billy goating up the mountain. And that's problematic because then they can really make it more difficult to get rid of them. Pick a new spawn point. Again, you're not engaging in the discussion if that's going to be your response. If you haven't seen any of the commentary on that map, then you're speaking to something that you're like ignorant of. It's a general problem with that map design. I spawned A, B, and E, and headquarters is behind A and B. You're going to be doing the same thing. You're going to be running a sniper glint gauntlet, and everybody has pointed out that like they're going to have to consider what they do with that. Some of it's sight lines, some of it's size of the map. Like it's significantly problematic. Like you can get platitudinous and be like, well, just pick a different spawn point. When you pick between 3, and as soon as you spawn, you immediately see sniper glints. It's like, oh, okay. It was pretty rough. And I'm not the only one that have said this. I've seen it all over Twitter. People are like, yeah, this is a problem. This isn't going to work. This map is going to need to be retooled to some degree. Hilly says, I played a bunch this weekend. Games were getting stomped and vice versa. Some of the best moments happened regardless. In one match, I finished second on my team, which equals my team was dire. I flanked and got behind everyone and took down planes. You can lean into the tools to help when a game is going sideways. The recon can give you better spawns, for example. The more I played, the more I could have a bunch of fun. By Sunday, most games were closed. It should just balance out with enough time. The issue is typically going to be those early days and early weeks. If it feels too sharp, then people will get annoyed. Now, again, it depends on the player. Some people might be like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to get good. I'm going to figure out how to use the equipment and the vehicles. Again, this comes back to the Call of Duty comparisons. You got to wonder, the people that are going to be kind of flocking to this game from Call of Duty, are some of those issues going to be irritating to them? Or are they just going to flock to Team Deathmatch and it's not really going to matter? Like, I do think we talked about this when the game kind of first announced itself and we watched that big premiere event. It does seem like they're trying to offer a very wide breadth of content for people, where they're offering the classic Battlefield modes. They've also got Team Deathmatch, and Battlefield fans are probably going to flock to the Battlefield modes. Call of Duty fans might end up landing in Team Deathmatch, but then Call of Duty fans might also end up landing in their free Battle Royale. So it's like they're offering sort of the gamut of content for people to land in, because if you're more of that run and gun Call of Duty mindset, you might not like the classic Battlefield modes because it can make it difficult to even feel a sense of movement, a sense of I'm impacting the game, right? I mean, that is the thing that people say sometimes about Battlefield. They're like, I don't really feel like I'm impacting the outcome of the game. I'm just sort of running around in a giant battle, and I took A, and then I took B, and then I took A, and then I took B, and then the round ended. There are others who obviously aren't going to feel that way, right? Everybody's experience is going to be, their own. So the Call of Duty fans may end up actually landing more in the Battle Royale and the Team Deathmatch than the classic Battlefield modes because of the sheer, years of muscle memory and habit that they've accrued just sort of just running and gunning. The amount of non-revivals is ridiculous. People just run past you. Yeah, I mean, I literally was just respawning over and over and over again, and Hilly was like, dude, let me, res you. And that's part of the problem, is that if you're not accustomed to some of those things, I was the opposite problem. I wasn't giving people a chance to revive me. I was just like, oh, I'm dead. Time to respawn. So you're probably encountering the exact same thing on the other side, is that people aren't even realizing, oh, I can get revives. I had 47 revives in one match, and I've had other matches where no one waited for me to revive. Right, they just immediately are like, yeah, I'm done. I would have been one of those people, Camille, because until somebody says, hey, hold on there, bro. Hold on there, bro. We're going to get you revived. I'm like, huh, what? Respawn. That's the Call of Duty brain from all those years of me playing, where that's kind of the mentality, is like, jump back in. Guy died in front of me and immediately gave up. For sure, yeah. Sometimes, though, I will say this, Camille. I think sometimes people do that because they've been farmed a couple of times on revives and they don't want it to happen again. So sometimes it could depend on your location. Like, if you die and there's a guy behind you that can revive, but you kind of saw where the gunshots came from and you're like, you're just going to pop me back up and I'm just going to get killed again. That sometimes is the case as well. They're like, no, I don't feel like getting farmed right now. I feel like respawning somewhere else, or having maybe a more advantageous approach here, Was it weird not sliding around? No, I was never a really big, slide around corners guy, never a big drop shot guy. I'm a pretty mediocre player when it comes to these games. Whenever I would play Call of Duty with my friends, we would pick game modes where we could be highly organized. That was kind of always our goal. Pick a mode like Headquarters or Team Defender where we could be highly organized. And the reason that I liked that is because I don't have to be some slayer, some high kill count killer. I just have to play a good position or a good strategy that leads to winning. That's always what mattered to me the most, was coming up with a winning strategy so that we were winning most of our games. I didn't care if I ended a game with 10 kills and 8 deaths. That didn't matter to me. Yo, what's good? The Italian with 4 months. Nobody took the easy 5 dunker for the first milestone. We're back to our roots, boys. Every 25, I'm gifting. So whoever hits it gets it. The next 5 bomb could secure it and also be an agent of chaos. So thank you guys so much. Search and Destroy was our main. No, I had guys that loved Search and Destroy. My crew did not like Search and Destroy. We liked Headquarters and we liked Team Defender. And I think that's one of the reasons why we all came together in Battlefield 4. Because in Battlefield 4, it was easy. And Cardoc Ren secures it over here on Twitch. Thank you so much, Cardoc Ren. Steals it for purple. There it is. The first 25 of the week. And not only that, but Twitch is going to take the lead 15-11. You love to see it. You absolutely love to see that. We are going to be doing that right now. Paying it forward. Again, we're kind of getting back to our roots. This is what we used to do. We used to do it every 25. A little bit more exciting, not so spread out. How come? Great news, there was a fix. The sub-currency thing has not been fixed. However, doing 1 every 25 should not put us in the situation that we were in. I was being incredibly generous, and it hurt me. And so we're just adjusting that dial a little bit. I didn't want to lose our vibe and our culture. We've been doing this for years. Everybody here is so generous. Everybody here is so willing to pay it forward. I did not want to lose that. Hardcore Search and Destroy was my favorite. Oh my gosh. I'm telling you, I had a friend who swore by that. He's like, it's the best. It's the best. It's so intense. So we all tried to play it with him one time. we were done, bro. After like one game, we're like, that was so boring because you get popped and then you're not playing. You're just watching. You're just spectating. And me and my friend were like, this is not it, bro. This is not the game that we want to play. Now, we didn't mind hardcore team deathmatch or like, hardcore headquarters or whatever. But we did not like search and destroy. We tried one round with him and we were like, yo, this sucks, bro. We're just spectating. We went right back to headquarters. I think MW3 is when we played a lot of team defender. That was one with the flag, and everybody always fell for it every time. My friends and I would go and get in fights, and then we'd try to move the flag to the location that we knew we could defend the best. We always had like a favorite spots to defend. So you'd get into a scuffle. First death creates the flag. Well, I said, what if we just gave them the first kill every time? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, why don't we go to the place we want to defend? I'll stand in the door and let them shoot me, and then you just grab the flag, and then we're good to go. Because that was always the most chaotic part of the game, was moving the flag from first death to our favorite location. And sure enough, it worked like a charm. They fell for it every time. Like, I'd stand in the door, and I'd just be, like, spraying around, and they'd shoot me, and there's your flag. Like, nobody could resist the urge on the free kill. They're like, there's a free kill right there. So... that's what we played. We played Team Defender in headquarters. And thank you, Raphael, with 15 months and a VIP. And then Dylan the Villain over here with 3 months is happy to support. Thank you for using your Prime sub. And that bumps us to 28. And each of you guys have moved the line one for your respective side. It's 16 to 12. And we're 2 away from a tempting milestone. The offering is the point, says Hilly. I believe he's talking about Battlefield 6 here. We're talking about Battlefield 6 versus Call of Duty. Guys, make sure you're hitting the like button as you come in. Make sure you're chiming in on the discussion. Like, what do you think? Try to get us to 200 likes. That's really, really helpful when we're doing a show like this. And I'll go through my briefing about this in about 15 minutes. Hilly says, the offering is the point. I likely won't play the smaller deathmatch stuff. I find it boring after a while. Same. I like when a team has a bunch of snipers and you bomb them back to the Stone Age. The challenges were very good for the beta. By doing them, they gave you the basic understanding of each class. Like in 3 months, players will revive. Agree, sometimes you die to stop others getting killed, including yourself. But the core big battles are great. You can counter with vehicles or switch to shotguns and hunker down in buildings until they blow up. You can change the map with strategy, and for old FPS enjoyer, it's perfect. Is anybody else similar to me in this? And one of the things, like as I'm reading Hilly type all this, I remember doing this in Battlefield 4. I know what Stone Spire's doing. Guys, come on. Stone Spire's getting back to his roots, and so are we. He is going to tee this up for a 20 bomb to 50. Let's see somebody deliver on those goods, all right? We are back to our roots. Every 25 I'm gifting, and he is the absolute man in this regard. He loves to do it. Very, very generous, making sure this community is always taken care of. And there it is. We are at 30. We are exactly 20 away. He has teed up the bait. Stone, I hope somebody takes the bait for you because you're so faithful, man. He's been doing that for... I don't even know how long. At this point, it's over a year that he brings that vibe here with the single gifteds. So, based on what Hilly was typing, I remember I was playing Battlefield 4 and I did that. I took a boat all the way around behind their spawn and just lit these guys up and took their spot. Like the closest spot to their spawn was like A or something. And me and a buddy took the boat all the way around. And the reason that we did that was we were getting like really, really pushed back and stomped on our spawn. So we thought, let's take a boat all the way around, and we loved it. I think now, like I'm seeing you type all that, Hilly, and I think my problem with these games is that I engage with them at such a low level of thought that I'm just like, dude, I'm just gonna kind of run around, run to an OBJ, look for players, throw some grenades, shoot some bulletes, and then that's kind of my contribution. And there are plenty of players that you need to do that. Right? Not everybody can grab a vehicle. Not everybody can be a sniper. Not everybody can do, all the various roles in the game. Sometimes you just need grunts to run to the OBJ. But I think that's part of the problem is I don't engage at a deep enough level because to me, I know I'm not going to play this game for very long. Like, I know it's kind of not my bag. Like, I know I'm going to be right back in, like, First Berserker Kazan or Ghost of Yotei or, you know, maybe I'll roll credits on Mafia because everybody's saying that it gets so much better after the first 2 hours that I played where there was minimal gameplay. High quality voice acting and writing and amazing tone, but very little gameplay. You know, I know I'm not going to live in this game. So it's sort of like I'm not going to dive deep into strategy per map, strategy per class, strategy per vehicle. I'm just like, dude, give me a gun and point me at the OBJ. I'll run to it. I'll look for players and I will try to help. And that's my contribution. And then I know a couple of days later, yeah, Borderlands 4, exactly. I know a couple of days later, I know a day later, I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to be playing something else. Does that make sense? I think that's maybe why sometimes we're not me and Hilly in particular, but like we're going to be passing in the night on this subject a little bit because people are going to be like, it's so good. You just got to do this and this and this and figure out how to use this really well. And then and I'm like, I know that you're right, but I'm like, I'm super casual in these games now. Like I don't like them enough to do all that. I'm just going to kind of run around and shoot. And then that's going to be sort of the end of my entanglement with the game. I don't know. It would be like if you really, really don't like Souls games, playing a Souls game, and you lose to the first boss a couple of times, and you're like, yeah, I don't really want to do this. And someone's like, well, all you got to do is analyze the enemy telegraphs, consider your build, be sure you only roll to the right on long swings, roll to the left on short swings. And you're like, yeah, see, no, I don't want to do any of that. Like, you're not going to dive that deep into the game because it's not your bag. You're like, this is not my thing. This is not my genre. And I really do feel like I've aged out. I just can't. And again, I think I burned myself out. You know, I played Quake 2, then Quake 3, then Unreal Tournament, then Call of Duty, and then Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Call of Duty. I played Call of Duty for basically a decade. You know, I got into the 360 with World at War. And I played Call of Duty almost exclusively all the way until Destiny came out. That was kind of my game, was COD. That, and I would play, you know, Borderlands with my friends. But for the most part, we were just eating, breathing, sleeping COD. And I think that can kind of make it to where you're just like, yeah, I don't know if I want to play these games that much anymore, if that makes sense. Because I know Hilly's correct. I know they design these games to be like that, to give you pivots, to give you depth, to give you things to get better at. When you're like, man, I don't know what we're supposed to do on this map. I can't figure it out. And you switch to some anti-tank build, or you switch to something that's, you know, you're going to be like do drive-bys on the tanks with like a helicopter or something. And you're able to kind of bring more of a balance to the battlefield. Thank you so much. UWA Talents. Battlefield 6 looks cool, but I'm still waiting for the COD reveal. That's next week. And we will definitely be checking that out. Black Ops 7 is next week. The discussion topic for the day is Battlefield 6 versus Call of Duty. That seemed to be the biggest thing people were talking about over the weekend in gaming news, I should say. Hilly says, I can understand that. I think Battlefield does have a bit of a learning curve. Not the mechanics or shooting, but it does make a huge difference when people can use each class. Like, I can't fly a helicopter yet. The game requires a massive time sink to become useful in every match. Now, that could play to its benefit, Hilly. Like, long term, that could really play to the game's benefit because people could basically feel this sense of, I have invested all this time, I've invested all of this effort, and I'm really good, and I've got this, and this, and I've unlocked that over there, and then you're going to feel that greater sense of commitments to keep playing. You know what I mean? Just a couple of days ago, nobody said anything. She's still with Xbox, but how much longer? Clearly, you get a job before you leave the job move. Is this true? Sarah Bond joins the Tyson board of directors? I don't think joining a board of directors always means, though, that you're switching positions. Sometimes you're on a board of directors as like a consultant, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think being on the board of directors is always the exact same as like becoming a C-suite employee. You guys that are more from the corporate world, help me here. I don't necessarily know if that's her switching jobs. Aren't there people that do that? Like, yeah, I'm the CEO of this company. I sit on the board of multiple companies. My father sits on 7 boards. Yeah, my buddy owns and operates an enormous and very successful business, and he sits on a couple of boards. Like, he's on the board of directors at like a school. He's on the board of directors at a couple of things. I don't necessarily think that's a full-time position. People might be jumping the gun here. A lot of board members are not part of the C-suite. Yeah. Okay. All right. We don't need to discuss that any further. That's what I thought. I was like, I don't think so. I don't think that means what people think it means. All right. In about 10 minutes, I'm going to give you guys my briefing, my type-up, my write-up on Battlefield versus Call of Duty. We also have debates brewing about GTA 6 price. We also have an update on the lawsuit between Sony and Tencent in that game that looked an awful lot like Horizon. We have a bit of an update on that. I did notice that over the weekend, the Battlefield players on X were very protective, telling a lot of COD players to stay away or kick rocks, like they didn't want certain creators around. Well, I mean, I think you're always going to see some level of tribalism within every game, especially if you're going to X, which is like one of the worst places in the world for like discourse about gaming. It's an escalation machine, and one of the things that platform thrives on is tribalistic behavior. So somebody yells at you because you like this, and you yell back, and then like that's basically what the platform promotes. It promotes divisiveness, and it doesn't really promote conversation. It also promotes, a lot of scantily clad anime characters now that are like animated by Grok, and disturbing old photos of people's family members coming to life. Like, that's not Uncanny Valley at all. Anyways, I wouldn't necessarily run to that platform for dialogue about games. That's like probably like the worst place to go. You know what I'm saying? It would be like going to a bar full of drunks and hoping to have a philosophical discussion. Like, you're just not going to get, you might find the rare diamond in the rough hanging out at a bar, and he's on a bender, but he knows his stuff. In general, that's not what people are there for. They're there to have a good time and, eat crappy food, throw back beer, and watch a TV. And you're going to like, well, can we talk about the metaphysical realities? They'll be like, shut the frick up, bro. Like, that's kind of like what you're getting when you go to X and Twitter. You're getting a medium that's not designed for, back and forth or conversation. And Hawk drops a 5-bomb and gets us a little bit closer. We were exactly 20 away from the milestone. Now we are exactly 15. Thank you so much for that. But I know what Hawk's doing. He's saying, hey, Purple, mind your roll over there. It's now 17-16 as the contest continues between platforms. I am back to gifting every 25. So let's make sure we're hitting those weekly goals, boys. That opens up Friday night on the channel. I think the Battlefield community is objective-based. Oh, they go after the objective. Call of Duty promotes Lone Wolf. Kill-death-driven solo play, and Battlefield wants people to play the objective. Call of Duty players don't mind losing the match if they play well. Battlefield players want to win matches. I don't disagree entirely with what you're saying, Corey, but I do think that Battlefield players are being potentially... thought on YouTuber we're going to get affected people need to show ID to comment. No, that's not happening. I mean, at least not yet. That would be terrible. That would destroy the entire platform. I think there are Battlefield players who aren't necessarily like, we better win. If they're playing with their squad and they're organized and they're having micro success within the game, like they're overtaking objectives, they're winning those little scraps and those little fights. I think Battlefield players are not necessarily like, well, if we lose, then, that was a terrible game. Like, you can have a really good game with your squad and still lose. That's part of the problem with how I play these games. I play them so casually, like, I'm not looking to do that. I'm not looking to, like, make a squad, get on the mic, and be like, all right, boys, what's the strat right now? I'm not looking to do that, dude. I'm sitting on my couch next to my wife. Like, I'm not about to be, like, fragging out, highly communicating in a shooter. That's just not something I want to do with my time. I think that's the beauty of Battlefield, though, is that if you engage at that level, I think there's plenty of fun to be had. You can be highly organized. You can really work together. You can have somebody who really runs support, someone who's really good with the vehicles, someone who's really good at revives, and you can have a very, very fun, and I would consider it like a successful match, even if you quote-unquote lose. Because I do think there is something to be said for a game of this size and scope. Sometimes you just can't turn the tide of the fight because you and your squad are not enough. It doesn't, sometimes it's like you are going to have, less of an impact on things than, than you would like. But I do think, at least in my experience with Call of Duty, I agree with what you're saying. Call of Duty players will willingly go into objective-based game modes, have zero care in the world how many times they lose, and they'll just pad their kill death. They will literally sit back, never go for the OBJ, and just farm kills, shooting people in their back, like running the OBJ, etc. And they don't care. They're like, what do I care if I have a terrible win-loss ratio in headquarters? My kill death is what matters. I do think there's a trend of that in Call of Duty. The difficulty, though, with what you're saying being, broadly true, is so many Call of Duty players are now playing Warzone, which, yeah, that's kind of the point of Warzone, is to get kills and to win. They're kind of one and the same. Why would Battlefield players be angry? OG Battlefield players would have easy kills. I don't think anybody's gatekeeping. Although, if content creators are being that way, I think sometimes content creators probably get a little miffed and annoyed when, like, a really big Call of Duty content creator or, like, a really big Fortnite content creator, they can just cover Battlefield and rake in tons of views and sit higher in the directory. That probably sits a certain kind of way with, like, a long-standing Battlefield fan, because they're probably going to throw around words like tourist. You're just a tourist. You don't even really like this game, right? Like, you got a Call of Duty guy who's like, I'm going to go stream that Battlefield. And they're automatically, intrinsically going to have more viewers and more popularity than somebody who's, like, more committed to Battlefield. Like, does that make sense? That's where some of that jealousy and some of that fighting and gatekeeping is going to come from. Arthur Torres says, chat, don't forget to hit the like button. I need everybody to listen to Arthur. He is correct. We're about an hour into the show. I'm getting ready to read through my briefing for you guys about the various news subjects. That's why we use those timestamps, so the opening of the show can be a little bit more laid back and just kind of free flow. Good to see you, Zubair. Hilly says, to be honest, some of the best matches are the ones where you are losing and you can farm kills and still be playing OBJ. More of their players are alive and running around. Oh, for sure. And you can, maybe even work on challenges. Like if you're trying to get a certain number of kills with a certain weapon, maybe it's a little easier in those contexts to do that. COD streamers have had it, while Battlefield guys keeping the game alive in the darkest moments. What's good, Mike on the mic? The fun of Battlefield is fighting for the objective, winning those small skirmishes, and helping the team. COD, you can play really well and never play the objective and never help the team. Well, and I would argue that you've created a bit of a contradiction. I would say if you're never playing the objective or helping your team, you're not playing well. You're like, oh, well, you can play well but never do these things. No, they're just getting lots of kills. I would argue that player is not playing well. Going into a team-based, objective-based mode and voluntarily playing in a way that's harmful to your team winning, I would not say that player is playing well. I would say they're weak. Like, that's why they do that. They don't go into team deathmatch. They hide out in headquarters. That's what we always said to people like that. It's like, yeah, okay, I have a 1.5 KD and you have a 2 KD. Well, congratulations. You're apparently too soft for team deathmatch. You come and hide out in headquarters and shoot people running to the OBJ or just spam the OBJ with grenades. what an amazing expression of skill, as you're seemingly not able to engage in the actual modes where kills are what matter. You're engaging in the mode where organization and defense and prevent matters, like getting on an OBJ and using prevent to keep people back, or, you know, wearing flak jacket, or using the trophy system to keep the spam from killing you right away. And obviously somebody running OBJ is going to have less kills, right? Like, you're going to have less kills because you're focused on something that is going to be to your survival's, detriment. You're not going to survive as much if you're running toward the action every time. I used to scold my teammates. Like, I would get to the headquarters first every time. They're like, oh, I'm like, where is everybody? Like, I'm trying to get there. I'm like, am I really that lucky? I was like, I get here every time. It's not that hard. Well, they're worried about their kill death, so they're being more measured in their approach, which I totally get. I understand that. I understand not wanting to just, like, hold the stick forward and run toward the objective and harm your kill death ratio in the process. I get why players don't like doing it. It can be frustrating, Getting lots of kills in objective mode still helps the team tremendously. It's the players that don't play the objective and don't get kills. You're correct, but also I'm talking about a mentality, Tuco. When we would play headquarters or team defender, there were definitely players who did not care if they lost. They were not getting kills to help their team win. They were in there actively not helping. Well, that's actually not helping your team. If you're letting your team get farmed and all you care about is getting some double KD because you're hiding around a corner or hiding on a rooftop or whatever, I don't know if you're helping your team. You're actively not helping. Now, Battlefield's a tad different, right? Battlefield's such a large-scale game, it would be hard to argue that you're not helping your team because you're not playing the OBJ. It's such a large-scale game, like, you could post up on a mountainside, and up on that mountainside, you could be literally getting kills and actively helping the team by getting those kills. You're slowing the other team down. You're taking their tickets away, right? Their respawn tickets. So I do think in Battlefield, you could be a little bit more passive and a little bit more like, I'm not going to run to the objectives. I'm going to kind of take to the skies and get kills, or I'm going to sit on a hillside and get kills. And that is helping. It is. This was more of a mentality that we ran into in Call of Duty all of the time. A guy would be shooting his mouth off, and it's like, homie, you lost 6 games in a row. You're, like, voluntarily losing so that you can farm, KD in headquarters or team defender. Like, you're going to objective-based game modes to farm kills because you know that it's easier. Like, you're literally getting cocky, about something that you shouldn't be cocky about. I don't think that's nearly as easy or even possible in a Battlefield game. I think Battlefield lays some of that flat because even the people that are doing that are contributing to helping. Again, they're on the hillside, they're getting the snipes or whatever. Like, let's talk about that one map where we were just getting farmed, right? They're all on the mountainside. You spawn and just see sniper glints, right? They're obviously helping their team win because they're directing the flow of battle. They're making it impossible for the other team to do much, right? They're making it not impossible, but they're making it very, very difficult for the other team to do anything, and that's largely contributing. Now, that somebody would probably say, and I think this would be fair criticism, they would say, well, that's sort of a lopsided map if that's the most efficacious way to play. If, like, the most effective way to play that map is to just sit up on hillsides and have your sniper, like, firmly aimed at spawn points, that's not an ideal design. Like, you're not actually engaging in the breadth of mechanics in the game. You're sort of cheesing the map. Right, so that's the one I think that is getting the most criticism because and a lot of it could come down to certain positions have far too long of sight lines. Looks like Sarah Bond is leaving Xbox for Tyson Chicken. No, we already spoke to that, FCAT. Sitting on the board of directors at a company is not always a change in position. I know multiple men that I'm friends with that are sitting on the board of directors at companies, and that's not where they work. They don't work there. Like, their full-time position is over here. They own some, company, or they run some company, but then they also sit on the board of directors at a school, or in this case, a company. So she will likely be compensated for that, but that's not necessarily a change in position. Let's not do the thing that everybody else did when they were like, oh my gosh, a job posting for Sony means they're changing their entire identity and structure and plan. Her sitting on the board of directors is that's about a nothing burger. There's not much to that burger. I mean, that's a nothing burger with no meat. It's a bun. There's nothing there. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think there's anything to that. Sarah Bond as a new independent director on its board. They already have 16? Okay. Let me do this. I've got my rundown. I've got my briefing. You guys really quickly hit the like button. And let me get you guys some footage to roll here. So I've got, I can kind of show you some things. Let's see here. Let's get some Battlefield 6 trailer action on the field. We'll go GTA 6 trailer 2. We'll get that on the field. And then we'll get Light of Motirum. Do they have a trailer for that? Yeah, they do. Okay. All right, we're going to want to loop that. And then I turn off the player controls. All right. Okay. I don't know if I've got this set up. Yeah, I don't have this set up just a second. Let me make sure this is... And then we want that. There we go. Helps me switch trailers a little bit earlier or a little bit faster, right? Okay. Let's get this going here. So can Battlefield take on Call of Duty? This question is always rising in prominence anytime a Battlefield game comes out. Honestly, anytime a shooter comes out, that's the question. Can it take on Call of Duty? Well, the sheer volume and success from the engagement with the Battlefield 6 beta is making this a very relevant topic for discussion. Like, folks are weighing in on the matter. A very quick perusal of Twitter and YouTube, and you're going to see people making comparisons and even very, very strong declarations that this is actually going to happen. Now, apparently, Activision is keenly aware about this being something that people think could happen. Insider Gaming reported the following. They said, quote, speaking with sources who wish to remain anonymous because they were not authorized to talk about Activision's internal conversations, it's been said that although Activision is keeping a close eye on Battlefield, they are not worried about the game outcompeting its flagship franchise. Now, you might have seen headlines about this. You might have seen like too big to fail. That's actually where this came from. Insider Gaming went on to say that, quote, it's said that Activision leadership believes that Call of Duty is too big to fail and will remain a profitable, annually released franchise for many years to come. Now, the second part, obviously, there, I don't think anybody doubted that like Call of Duty would still be profitable and release something annually. I mean, they're monolithic within the gaming world. The question is, could this game sort of pull from the player base? Could it get people to start playing Battlefield instead? Could you get people to sort of like switch their allegiance? That's what I've continued to say. We're going to be looking at a lot of numbers here in a moment that are very impressive, but the real true test is 3 months in, will Battlefield 6 still have that new car smell? Will people still be making this sort of their main game? Because there's a lot of people, that's their main game, right? Warzone, Call of Duty, maybe their main game is like Apex or Fortnite. Will Battlefield cement itself as one of the main games within sort of that pie of live service shooters? Well, one former Blizzard boss had something to say about this. Mikey Barra took to Twitter in the wake of the crazy success of the Battlefield 6 beta, and he said, Battlefield will boot stomp Call of Duty this year, but the real win here is COD won't be lazy anymore, and we'll all get better FPS games for it. Now, he seems to think that Battlefield is bringing so much heat and momentum that Call of Duty will have to respond with their own direct answer, sort of in quality improvement. They're going to have to look at their own franchise. Many people feel that Call of Duty has not just grown stale, but it's gone low and down in quality. Now, there's an update, an event coming up for Black Ops 7, and maybe they have a strong answer in that debut. Now, according to the numbers of just the Battlefield 6 beta, Call of Duty may actually have to shake the dust off. Insider Gaming claimed here that Battlefield 6 has smashed past the 500,000 concurrent player mark on Steam, surpassing Call of Duty's all-time high of 491,000. Now, this is not a small feat to achieve, and it's worth noting, Insider Gaming admitted this, that this isn't the most fair comparison, especially considering the Battlefield 6 beta is free, but it still represents an enormous milestone if your beta can pull those kind of numbers on one platform. That's 500,000 players playing at the exact same time on one platform, just Steam. That doesn't include PlayStation or Xbox. Now, the studio boasted on Twitter that this is their largest beta ever, but the game is certainly not without its flaws. Liberation Peak is being heavily criticized with how easy it is to sort of climb the mountain ridge and just spawn camp with a sniper. On the first day of the beta, I was spawning in 3 different positions, and as soon as I would spawn on A, B, or E, I'm just seeing sniper glints everywhere. They need to consider that, whether it's sight lines that are too far, whether it's spawn points that should be indoors or behind things. They're going to have to look at tweaking that map. Now, beyond just design or logistical flaws and debates about spawn camping or sniper glints or what have you, cheating is also an issue. Reports are indicating that Battlefield 6's anti-cheat has blocked over 330,000 cheating attempts. More than 250,000 attempts at cheating. Now, EA officially stated that, quote, Javelin has prevented 330,000 attempts to cheat or tamper with anti-cheat controls. You've reported 44,000 instances of potential cheaters during day one, and another 60,000 so far today. We are already using these with our own gameplay integrity team to add and improve our detections of Battlefield 6. They are also working with the Battlefield Positive Play team to actively remove those reported we confirm to be cheaters. Now listen, if they can get the cheating under control, get some of these map design quibbles under control, the beta turnout could really make some of these predictions hold true. We got to see. We may have an actual contender to go up against the Titan of Call of Duty after all these years. The question is, I want to know what you think about this, because I'm still not sure if 3 months in, people are still playing this with the same fervor that they're playing right now. So I want to know what you guys think. Do you think? I mean, I just don't know. More and more, to me, it's like, dude, these games are always so hot, so exciting day one, but then 3 months later, everybody runs back home to whatever their home game is. This could be the time where that doesn't happen. As many of you indicated in chat, this could be the time where you've got yourself a new home game. You've got yourself a game where you're like, nope, that's the game I'm going to live in now. That's the game I'm going to spend all my time in now. That is always a possibility. And I mean, if a game has a shot, it's certainly a game that's getting 500,000 concurrent players on Steam in its dadgum beta. Yeah? So, next story, though, that we want to make sure and cover is about GTA 6. So will GTA 6 be another $80 game? This is a brewing question that we still don't have an answer to. Like, gamers everywhere are like, listen, is this what we're going to have to pay for another new game? Especially after Nintendo took the first shot with Mario Kart, followed by Xbox. But Xbox didn't really do all that great with their announcement about $80 games, because Outer Worlds 2 had to walk back the $80 price point because there was significant blowback. Now, it probably did not help that PlayStation did not follow suit. Many people were claiming PlayStation was going to immediately follow suit, to the point that they were saying they would like eat something on stream or something. I'm not really sure if that's ever going to happen, but it probably didn't help, though, that you could open up your PlayStation storefront and see Death Stranding 2 at $70, Ghosts of Yotei at $70. So walking that back certainly was, at some level, I think, expected, given how poorly it went over, but that's not necessarily GTA 6. When speaking with Variety, Strauss Zelnick, the CEO of Take-Two, he said the following, quote, "Our goal always is to deliver more value than what we charge. So we've had variable pricing at the company forever. As you know, the approach of the industry is to launch at a premium price, sometimes with special editions, and over time, typically to reduce the price to enhance the overall size of the market. We do the very same thing. I think probably more than most. We're highly focused on making sure that the experience is great, not just because the game itself is great, but also because consumers have paid a fair price for it." Now, listen, this is a very safe answer, okay? This could be interpreted in a couple of ways. Now, he may have invoked variable pricing because that's what they plan to do. The base game of GTA 6 will be $70, and then you're going to have a $100 version and a $120 version, and you know those early adopters are going to be the quickest to just dive in and buy that 100 or that 120 version, right? Those GTA enthusiasts that never want to miss out on anything. Like, every game has their super fans, and GTA probably has a very large amount of them. But you could also interpret what he was saying to mean that, listen, variable pricing is going to allow them to have a base of 80 and then higher level versions, and then they could drop that base price later, as he said, to expand the reach of the game. And they could maximize the amount of money that they earn, because they know those initial sales of GTA 6 will be so incredibly high. There'll be so many people that just buy automatically at day one. So think of it this way. They know there's an almost guaranteed number of sales for GTA 6 in its first couple of months. And $10 extra on all of those purchases that buy the base version at 80, that's a lot of dollars, because you're talking about a game that's going to be selling millions of copies. Now, that's obviously in addition to the people buying the $100 versions or like $120 premium deluxe blah 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 editions. Listen, that extra 10 on those 80s could be a significant amount of money. And then once the game has kind of run its relevancy course, in that sales start to slow down a little bit. I mean, sales of this game is never going to really be bad. I mean, it'll always be selling very, very well. But once they've realized, like, okay, our strongest, our fastest, our quickest purchasers, those early adopters, are slowing down, now we can drop the price to 70 and increase market reach. Now, I could even see them timing the sale or the discounting of GTA 6 with around the time that they add GTA 6 online, because we know from reports and from rumors that is going to be coming later. And at that point, you want to get as many people in as possible. Maybe even a little bit after. I mean, maybe they just want to get the funnel full of people at the beginning, and then they know there's going to be a flood of new players if they drop the price of the game. So the question about GTA 6 price and whether or not it's going to be $80 remains a mystery. I don't really know where I'm landing on this. I'd love to hear from you guys, because it seems like they could, and nobody could really put a stop to it. I mean, if Mario Kart can launch at 80, surely Grand Theft Auto 6 could do the same thing. So, you know, I really don't know. I really don't know what they're going to do. I'm not too sure where they decide to land on it. But we got one more story here for you guys, and this is about the Horizon ripoff. You may have seen the Horizon ripoff game making headlines and waves, not just because it looks extremely similar to Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West, but because Sony is suing Tencent over the game. Light of Motirum, if that's how you're supposed to pronounce it, I'm not really sure. But that game looks an awful lot like Horizon. Not just the promotional materials, as many people have claimed. I actually did enjoy Force Gaming's video on this. If you haven't seen his video, he has a great breakdown. I think one of the things he cites is how the game itself may end up being more similar to the anticipated Horizon multiplayer game or the Horizon MMO, which could be the real impetus for the lawsuit. Not that this game looks a ton like the actual Horizon Zero Dawn and Forbidden West games once you're into the gameplay. Now, the actual artwork, the promotional materials, the Steam landing page, well, that's where things are starting to take an interesting turn. TheGamepost.com reported that, quote, after Sony's Horizon knockoff lawsuit against Tencent, Light of Motirum devs scrubbed store page, changed game description, images, and key art. And listen, they noticed a lot of tweaks and changes that had taken place on the Steam page. This is what they said. These tweaks include rewriting the game's description, swapping out multiple screenshots, changing the key art, and adding a release window. The original old store description leaned heavily into language that matched Horizon themes. That text has now been replaced with something much more generic and survival-focused, avoiding direct references to, quote, colossal machines or, quote, mech animals. Like, instead of mechanism, mech animals. So more than that, they didn't just change that. They also changed the artwork. The Game Post was reporting that several images that previously showcased sweeping landscapes, robotic creatures, and environments reminiscent of Horizon have been removed. The updated set of images, it actually features more general open-world survival imagery that doesn't lean as heavily into the sci-fi tribal tech aesthetic. So, listen, even if the main promotional imagery has been swapped to avoid having a female protagonist in a very similar armor that we see Aloy wearing, it's now like a cute little robot-looking penguin. Even if they're doing that, that doesn't take away from the fact that significant portions of this game could end up looking very, very similar to games that we know Sony is invested in with Guerrilla. The future of the Horizon franchise they see as being very profitable. I mean, reports came out from this lawsuit that like 38 million copies of Horizon games have sold. I've seen people say, stop trying to make Horizon a thing, or why does everybody think Horizon's so popular? Nobody's imagining that. That's a fact. It's been a very successful franchise, one of the most successful new IPs and franchises for Sony. And then you've also got Tsushima making inroads as being just as, not just as successful, but very successful as a new game. So if they're that invested in the Horizon IP, you could see why they would see something like this and say, hey, this seems to be a pretty direct threat to what we're trying to do. You're making a product that looks identical to what we're building. We want to have more than just the single-player Horizon games. We know that PlayStation has live service aspirations, and a game like this is actually a recipe to have an existing fan base. I've said this very, very many times. The biggest struggle of a live service game is getting that funnel of players full at the beginning because you don't really have a fan base yet. Well, if your new live service game is based on existing IP, you stand to already get a lot of players from day one, and they could see this game being a threat to that. It could cause confusion in the market, as they would end up looking very similar. We heard that the one Horizon multiplayer game was going to be sort of like a multiplayer cooperative Monster Hunter style game, and you're seeing similarities right here in some of these pieces of gameplay footage about sort of roaming an open world with big giant mechanistic animals and having to fight them and rip parts from them like you would do in a Monster Hunter style game. So while this development of this lawsuit is still underway, it does seem that Tencent is already gearing up to place distance between the properties. They seem aware that this is going to be a potential problem in their court case, that their game looks so similar, as they're changing the game's presence online already. Now, this could lead to the entire thing being dropped, but if the game still has too many of those similarities to future Horizon projects, Sony may try to push for greater changes than just superficial store descriptions or key art swapping. So, curious what you think. Does the lawsuit have merit? And I think this has more to do with the future games than the existing Horizon games, but I could be wrong. We'll see where the lawsuit ends up going. So feel free, guys, weigh in on this stuff, because to me, that I think was a good point that Force Gaming made. It was like, this might actually have to do with these other games that aren't out yet. Like, there are Horizon games coming that are not out yet. Like, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. But seeing those similarities, like Monhun style combat and stuff, you definitely could have people at Sony saying, now wait just a minute. That's going to look too similar to something that we've already invested in and something that we have already built. And it's stepping on our toes here. The Nintendo case with Power World, I've not seen any developments with that. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. They went to Sony and wanted to do a licensed Horizon game, and they didn't get it, so they did it anyway. I think that's going to hurt their case. You know what I mean? I think that's going to hurt their case. It's like, hey, you came to us, wanted to license our game, we said no, and now you just happen to make a game that looks an awful lot like our game, unless you're actually stealing assets, I don't have a problem. Clones used to be a very common thing. I think Jack Saints that did a video on this where he said he would prefer somebody make a game where they can just use Mario instead of making a game where it's just blue Mario. Like, it's like, well, we're just going to change the colors. So, like, it's obvious what they're doing, but it's not done in a way where, like, you're making another game within. Like, he wanted, and he thinks very openly about this. I don't necessarily agree with him on this. Yo, Kat, thank you for 35 months over there on Purple. Moving the line a little bit closer to the milestone. Thank you so much. It's now tied 17-17 between the two platforms. That doesn't add up. 17 and 17. What is going on? If essentially Are we? I'm just gonna make it to 18. I'm not sure why we're not getting correct addition here. Lono math is at play. Essentially, what he was saying is, why not just let everybody make games with the IP? But I'm like, okay, then you don't really have an IP anymore. If anybody can make a game with Mario, because you just go with this more like open, non-protected way of handling it, then Mario ceases to exist. You're just going to have this generic character thrown into every game you can think of. You're going to have all these, slimy cash grabs that are like, well, we made a game with a Mario character. It's like a horror game or something. So, like, I actually didn't agree with him, but his position from a principled position actually made sense to me. It was like, oh, I would actually rather have people be able to just use Mario instead of blatantly rip him off, but, like, try to fool the public and be like, well, this isn't Mario, and it's just like Blue Mario. It's a bit like Astrobot and Mario, where influencers are there, but you can see they didn't change enough, so people still enjoy it. But here's the thing, though, with this Light of Motirum game. It's really hard to ignore that it looks like stuff directly, like, taken from the world of Horizon. It's not about direct copy, it's about potential market confusion. If people are literally like, I can't tell the difference, that looks like a Horizon game to me, and we also now have it as a matter of public record that this company sought out a Horizon license and were told no. Looking at this game, you can't be like, well, that's fine, it's just inspiration. It's pretty blatantly copying. And I don't want things like, and this is where I think people are muddying the waters. What Nintendo is doing with Pow World is they have patented gameplay mechanics similarly to how Warner Brothers patented the Nemesis system. So they lock down some cool gameplay mechanics so nobody else can use it. That I don't think is the issue here. No one's being like, oh, well, those mechanics are our mechanics. Because I remember when we had that discussion about Power, I was like, what if FromSoft would have patented the Souls mechanic or the Bonfire mechanic or any of those mechanics? Like, you wouldn't have all these games that have taken clear inspiration from Souls games. But when I'm playing Lies of P and when I'm playing Wu Chang Fallen Feathers or First Berserker Kazan, I know I'm playing a unique piece of property that has only been influenced by FromSoft. It's not like a direct copy. This game looks like a direct copy. It's like the average consumer is going to be like, oh, that's that Horizon game, isn't it? It looks just like it. That causes confusion in the market, which then damages someone's property. You're not taking a patented approach where, like, we don't want other people to use this mechanic. You're just stealing someone's art style. Like, if we look at what happened with Marathon and how people were like, it was just a couple of decals. It's like, was it just a couple of decals, or was it like literally everything that person brought with the vibe of their work, and it was just all thrown into Marathon? It like set the stage for the entire game's look and feel. Oh, well, that's a style that's been around for a while. I mean, I just don't agree on the Marathon situation. I don't be, oh, it's just a style that's been around for a while. It's like, no, that's pretty much a direct copy of that person's work. Eugene says the art style is the same, the color gradients are the same, their intent was to make a Horizon game. It's about as blatant as you can get. Right. AOZ says people saying copying okay should be okay with AI replacing their jobs because that's exactly what AI does at a micro level. I suppose that's probably true. You got to be careful with what you're saying here because you're basically saying like it's completely okay just to take, like I don't necessarily think that's one of the reasons why the AI discussions are so important. Like, a person has a right to protect their likeness. You can't be like, yeah, my book is narrated by so-and-so. And it's like, well, that so-and-so didn't agree to that. You know what I mean? Like, I want to have my book narrated by Morgan Freeman. And he's like, well, I didn't agree to that, I think this is kind of similar. It's like, well, you're just doing almost a direct carbon copy of an entire art design and an aesthetic to the point that if it causes confusion in the market and people are like, I can't tell the difference between the brands, then that's why we have copyright law protection to prevent those sorts of things from happening. Tencent are a big corp. Why risk a lawsuit? Maybe they think that it's loose enough or they can make enough changes that they can get away with it. Obviously, they are admitting what they did because they're changing things already. Like, everybody who was like basically taking this as an opportunity to be anti-Sony, the interesting thing is the company basically admitted to what they were doing. I thought Sony canceled the online Horizon game. No, that turned out to be a false report. Thank you, Manny Plays, for the $2 super chat. I forgot to set the super chat goal. I will gift a member. Let's set that there. I gift a single. And we are back to doing 5 every 25. So we're 14 members away from the next milestone, guys. Make sure and check your renewals, check your primes, drop your gifted bombs on either platform. Whoever hits it gets it. We did that earlier, and Twitch stole it. So thank you so much, Twitch. But again, you know, the people are like, oh, they jumped at the chance to be anti-Sony about this. And it's like, well, okay, what do you say now that the company is basically admitting what they did by changing the Steam page, removing key art, removing descriptions? Why? Because they know that would hurt their case. Like, they know that would hurt their case. Anybody with a brain looked at this game and they were like, what are y'all doing? That's like a blatant copy. If it wasn't a blatant copy, if it wasn't a potential risk of copyright, you know, infringement, then they wouldn't be changing things right now. Right? If this was just a slam dunk of a win for them, Hidden Siryu with 15 months, thank you so much, bumps the line to 37. And Glenn Schofield is carrying the day with a 5 bomb. He gets us to 42 members. We're now 8 away from the next milestone. Thank you so much. And it's 24 to 18. Thank you so much, Glenn and Hidden Siryu. They thought it would be better to ask for, better to apologize than ask for permission. I think the saying is better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. Glenn Schofield says, I'm taking the bait. Take the bait, baby. Let's get to 50. Not to 50. You could argue. And a 10 bomb comes in from Siryu. And we're not slowing down, boys. We are not going to be deterred from what we do here. 34 to 18. There it is. 52 members. I now owe YouTube a member. Every 25, boys. We're back to our roots. We are now a 50 bomb away from the big one. That is the big one. We want to see about 100 members a day. That unlocks Friday night. Make sure you guys are hitting the like button. It gets more people here. It gives the video a bit of momentum. Make sure you guys are doing all the things as you come in. And there's the membership that I owe you guys. Thank you so much for doing that. Let's see what people are coming in off of. People are looking for Battlefield 6 today. Battlefield 6 versus Call of Duty is also part of the discussion. I did a bit of a breakdown of the insane numbers that the beta has had. Call of Duty doesn't feel threatened. They think they're too big to fail. But a former Blizzard employee, Mike Ibarra, he thinks it's going to get, that Battlefield 6 is going to boot stomp. They did not fix the currency problem, Joker. But we have decided that capturing and keeping our culture here of generosity is incredibly important. So I am willing to go back to our roots, and every 25, I'm just going to do a single instead of a 5, and that should fix the problem that we had. I was hurting myself because I was doing too much unknowingly. I didn't know. This should fix it. If it doesn't fix it, I'll revisit in a month, but I think this should fix it. And thank you, Glenn Schofield with the 10 bomb. Keeps the member train going. Glenn says we cannot slow down. We're not going to be deterred by a silly background, number crunch. We're not worried about that. We're just going to make that adjustment, and it should fix it. It should fix the issue. Either way, Sony has to sue, so people can't play fast and loose with their IP. They have to try and defend it. Well, right, you don't want a bunch of carbon copies popping up, right? That's what we call hubris in regards to the COD comments. Yeah, what do you guys think about that? Call of Duty saying, we're too big to fail. We're not threatened by Battlefield. I was like, all right. Okay, better watch out. Joker Quinn with a single gifted bumps it to 63. Thank you so much. Yeah, like Zubair said, it's an accounting error, right? It was an accounting error. I made the mistake of not constantly number crunching my channels. It bit me on the rear end. Sadly, at a bad time of the year for something to bite you on the rear end. We are going to rectify this, okay? Taking the bait's getting addictive. Well, thank you, Glenn. We are going to rectify this, all right? Now, if you guys want to support more directly and help us kind of fix some of that, we have said to use the tip command. That is a way to tip directly and then leave a remark, leave a message for me to read. So you can always do that. You can type !tip in the chat, and that's a way to support as well. They genuinely are too big to fail because of another game. The only way they fail is constant release of a low-quality product. Here's the thing, Wheezy. The way they phrased it in the article that I read about being too big to fail, they were like, well, we're still going to be profitable and we're still going to release an annual game. And it's like, listen, I don't think anybody said or anybody thinks that Battlefield is quite literally going to bury Call of Duty to the point that like Call of Duty ceases to be profitable and ceases to release. I think the idea is this game is a threat. It could pull a lot of players from your game and you might make less money. Nobody's saying that you won't make money or that Call of Duty will just be like gone, reduced to atoms. But it's like, I mean, you might make less money this year. There might be a lot of people that say, miss me with that. I ain't playing COD anymore. I mean, you got 500,000 people playing the Battlefield 6 beta on Steam. That's an awful lot of people just on one platform that might say, I'm switching. I don't know. Omar with 40 months, Lono voice. I'm 40 months. I'm a man. That's right. Thank you so much. Ooh, we're one away from a nice setup. Thank you so much, Omar. I miss this. I miss being on the every 25. It's such a better rhythm. Like, it's so much more exciting than, like, what we were every 50. It's like, no, man, every 25 is a lot more exciting. It's a snarky way to say it, but it's genuinely not wrong. Well, yeah, I don't think, but I think it's a reframing of the argument, Wheezy. If someone's like, hey, Battlefield's a threat, you better watch out. And they're like, we're still going to remain profitable and release a game every year. Okay, nobody said that's what they were a threat against. You know what I mean? It's like the MCU. The MCU isn't struggling because the DCU is so great. The MCU is struggling because people have lost faith in the product after constant low-quality releases. Yeah, the dilemma with that kind of a comparison, though, Wheeze, is that Call of Duty becomes a home game for people, and it's where they live. It's where they spend their money. It's where they spend their days and their player habits. If you get a percentage of those people to switch or stop engaging at that degree, that's a problem. Look, we know these games are obsessed with constantly getting you to come back in and spend money. It's why there's always an event. It's why there's always a new skin. It's why they're always changing the meta. It's why they're always changing the map. They're like, please stay in our game. Please come back and play our game. Don't stop playing our game, okay? Now, I want you to interpret that behavior through the lens of, hey man, hundreds of thousands of people might start playing this game instead. Think about that. The way that Fortnite has behaved, the way that Call of Duty has behaved, they are very much like pushing the pedal to the ground. They never, ever, ever let anything slow down. There's always something happening. There's always some new dumb pop culture reference or some new dumb skin to buy. That's how they keep people engaged. If the behavior of these companies, you know, Fortnite and Call of Duty, if the behavior of these games and companies is to almost obsessively keep people engaged in the game, then Battlefield 6 is a threat. It's 100% a threat. We've been saying this for a very long time. There's only so many players in the live service pie. There's only so much attention in a day. There's only so many player hours in a day. If that's true, then Battlefield 6 is a threat because you can just take a percentage away from COD, and that's damaging because they're going to make less money. Hello, Lono and chat from the Qatar airport. Reforge Gaming everywhere. Good to see you, Behemoth. I appreciate you, and I appreciated the comment you left. I don't want you or any of the homies feeling bad about what happened. We've already fixed. We've already rectified. All right? We've already rectified. We are back to our roots. I'm gifting every 25. We're back to our roots. It'll be a single, but it should keep us right where we want to be with a generous and very giving community. The GA is what's important. The hardcore people will always be there. It's when they lose the general audience. You giving gifts again? Yes, we're back to our roots. We have just made an adjustment. The interval is returns to form every 25. We've dropped it to a single because that should protect me from what happened. We'll assess in 30 days if I'm correct. We're going to pay more attention to it this time. We're not going to go 8 months and be like, well, golly gee. Oh, golly gee, what happened here? We're going to pay more attention to it, but I want to continue that vibe. I want people to still feel that excitement. I still want folks to be like, hey, I don't care what you're gifting with. You're gifting. You're giving to others. You know, we're celebrating that here. It's what we do. It's what we've done for 4 years on this channel. So, yeah, until the casual Joe says I'm done with COD, the statement kind of holds, even though, again, I know it's snarky. Again, Wheezy, I don't necessarily, I feel like we're passing in the night. It's not about that. It's not about that. It's not about getting people to say I'm done with Call of Duty. It's about them playing Call of Duty less. If they play Call of Duty less, they're spending less money, they're buying less skins, they're buying less battle passes. These games obsessively add things, update things, and do things. And Angry Pete's going to set it up. 65. We're a 10 bomb away. Whoever hits it gets it. This is your chance, YouTube and Purple. Whoever does it gets the gifted. We're back. We are so back. We need 10. Let's see who decides to do it. Nice setup. And a 10 bomb comes in for Behemoth on cue. Just like that. See, this is what we used to do. This is what we were missing. We're back. This is how it's been for 4 years. That's the way to do it. Nice job. Angry Pete with the assist there to Behemoth. Thank you very, very much. So the point is that if they're sort of obsessively trying to keep you playing and spending, and another game comes in and cuts into that attention, that's a threat. That's a threat. A $5 super chat from Dinner is Delayed. Why are people praising EA for the optimization in Battlefield? It could be a base PS4 game, and Battlefield 1 is arguably just as fun and good looking. Do you want to know what's happening, Dinner is Delayed? I'll tell you what's happening. The customer is always right in matters of taste. That's what's happening. That's it. 500,000 people were playing at the exact same time on PC and having a ball. My entire feed on Twitter is nothing but people saying how much fun they're having. The customer is always right in matters of taste. Sorry. They're having fun. They think it looks awesome. They think the sound design is great. You can't fight against it. I didn't have a great time. These games aren't my bag. I don't really, But I'm looking at this thinking, they're gunning for Call of Duty. There has not been a game that has successfully put up a fight, and this game's looking like it's going to. They're going to cut in on that audience. I'm telling you right now. They're going to cut in on that audience. Now, is it going to make Call of Duty go under? No. Call of Duty's going to have to assess what they're going to do as a response. Weezy says something that won't be known until November, December. For sure. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about, is that a potential reality where Battlefield cuts in on a percentage of the player base? And listen, you know how these companies are, man. They don't want any of those numbers to go down. You think if Call of Duty Warzone, you think if Call of Duty Annual sees a dip in sales, sees a dip in microtransactions, you think they're just going to be like, no, that's fine. We don't mind less money. Less money's okay. No, they're not going to say that. What are we doing to fix that is what they'll say. How are we rectifying this? Whether it's layoffs or downsizing or more aggressive microtransactions or a return to form, or whatever it is, I don't think a company would take that lying down. No, that's fine. We just made less money than we were anticipating. Our year-over-year percentages went in a downward arrow instead of an upward arrow. We all like those green arrows, don't we? Nobody wants to see those red arrows. Well, You got a games beta that pulled this many players. That's significant. It is. And listen, I said this morning. We've been here so many times before. We got the new car smell. We got the new game. We got the game claiming that it's going to take on COD, right? I think the mistakes in the past have been games that have been too similar. Like, let's take X Defiant and how I told people the game wouldn't last. Number one, arena shooters I don't think have the legs. Okay? Also, Battlefield is only slightly Call of Duty adjacent with Team Deathmatch. The Battlefield modes are notoriously Battlefield. It doesn't feel like another game. It doesn't. There's a look, there's a feel, there's a vibe. There's a cinematic quality to playing Battlefield. Hilly's like, it's a new car. Yeah, it's not just a new car smell. As Hilly pointed out this morning, it's a brand new car. And I think that has a chance to really cut in on the player pool percentages. I thought the Battlefield 6 devs completely avoided saying anything about taking on COD. They did. And I think that's what they were supposed to do, Eugene. Do you remember what I said during that presentation? Eugene, I was like, they aren't saying a word about Call of Duty. They're not taking passive swipes at Call of Duty. They just brought a killer product to the market. And I said, it seems to me like they're gunning for Call of Duty. I said, they've got classic Battlefield modes that seem like a huge return to form. It felt very reminiscent of Battlefield 4. They've got Team Deathmatch, and they've got a free Battle Royale. That sounds exactly like what Call of Duty has been doing. You have like sort of this robust offering for the gamut of players that are out there. You don't pull 500,000 concurrent players on Steam with your beta and don't potentially disrupt some of the player percentages. As I've been saying, these companies are well aware how hard it is to keep everybody's attention. That's why they're like Nicki Minaj, Beavis and Butthead, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We changed the map. We got a new this. We got a new that. Right? And thank you guys for using the tip command. If you send me a tip, I'll read it out. Let me know, because I do have to check my email for those. But thank you for using that tip command. That is a way to directly support what we do here, if you'd prefer that over doing gifteds or super chats. Excuse me. Weezy says, I've got a healthy amount of skepticism, I think rightly so, until the COD hype cycle starts. For the record, I don't think Battlefield's going to fail or whatever. I just think it's definitely premature, especially before they start the annual COD hype cycle. I don't think it's premature at all. I think it's very basic market analysis to say that when you're hitting this level of player saturation, that's a threat to player attention. It's a threat to player attention. Because you'd have to assume that every single person that played Battlefield 6 and is like a Call of Duty fan, that this isn't going to disrupt their playtime. Let's just say they buy both games. This is still in the water creating displacement. It's like you're going to have people that are like, I'm not just playing COD now, I'm also playing Battlefield 6. That's a threat. These games don't want that. They don't want you playing anything else. They don't want you spending your dollary dues in another micro store. So even if you buy both games, it's a threat. They don't want you doing that. Yo, Frank Last with 9 months says, good morning. Good morning, sir. Gets us to 76 on the day. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Nice, strong bounce back, guys. Oh, I have not been saying this. Make sure you guys are hitting the like button. We should be at 300 likes, and I was not watching it. That's my fault. Double check that you did your ritual. Every time you kind of come into the live stream on YouTube, man, hit that like button. Even if only a tiny percentage stick to Battlefield 6, that's such a huge number of beta players, that small percentages become material to bottom lines. That's exactly what I'm saying. None of this is premature because this beta has been tectonic. And it wasn't just a beta like last time where like a day later people were like, this is kind of a glitch-riddled mess. This is like, oh my gosh, this is a return to form. Oh my gosh, Battlefield's back. Oh my gosh, I can't stop playing. Like the player numbers went like this. This is a very, very different landing for this franchise. Battlefield 6 has a real chance to be successful. It's a more grounded experience, bombastic, cinematic, and objective-oriented. That's appealing. I agree. Battlefield playstyle is niche. It's fun for now, but the real long-term play revolves around the Battle Royale. Here's why I don't agree with you, Tuco. there are so many different types of players. I believe there are players who love the Battlefield vibe of like Conquest. That's just where they're going to live. Then they get to tap into people who like Battle Royales. They also get to tap into people who like the more arena-style stripped-down team deathmatch. Like, I don't think it's as dichotomous as you're making it. Like, well, all that really matters or what matters most is the Battle Royale. I don't think so. I think there's a huge funnel of players that are like, yo, Battlefield's back. This is a return to form. I love this. And they aren't going to be interested in that Battle Royale. They're going to want to play the classic Battlefield modes. And Aaron Wright with 32 months of Member Plus says, what up, Reforge? Just ordered my copy of Mafia the Old Country. Looking forward to the good story game. Been a while. Yeah, it is a very high-quality story game. I really liked the opening. I just thought it was slow for a 10-hour game. And a Member Plus renewal as well from Breaker, good buddy. Thank you so much. And that bumps the line to 59 to 18. We are back to our roots, boys. Every 25, I'm gifting. It's a single, but it's the point of paying it forward. It's the spirit of what we've always done here. And thank you guys for helping that. I was going to read something. Hang on. This isn't just digging into revenues. It's digging into profits, says Nova Hands. Somebody over here said something as well that I wanted to read. Jess, many people were saying Battlefield is back in game chat before servers went offline. The overall sentiment seems positive. Cheaters are the issue and where negative reactions mostly stand. For sure. Cheaters are always going to be a problem. A $5 super chat from P-Dub H-Town says, this Battlefield hype kind of reminds me of the hype when Helldivers 2 launched. People were skeptical, but the player numbers and sales speak for themselves. Thank you so much for getting us halfway to the super chat goal. Appreciate you, P-Dub H-Town. TTK was really low for some weapons for the beta, but it was a solid experience. I just wonder, too, like, especially if you're playing against people that have really good target acquisition, I was definitely going up against players who were nailing headshots. Like, I was dying super fast. A $2 tip from someone with the first name Jay. Y'all sleeping on Marathon and how both franchises will be running scared once that's out. Are you serious, Clark? There's no way anybody... Y'all are sleeping on Marathon. Thank you for the $2. I appreciate it. I appreciate the $2 tip. You guys can use that tip command if you prefer to tip directly, and then you can send me a message just like that. I think the second beta weekend might have a chance to have an even higher numbers than the first one. Oh, yeah, word of mouth, 100%. Word of mouth will have that effect. Guys, quickly scramble to 300 likes. We're doing really, really well. We're having a great, great Monday. Thank you guys so much. Battlefield 1 was incredible, and I think Hardline was underrated. I remember Hardline being sort of fun for a little while, but I remember just driving around in cars all the time. I don't even know what the game mode was. Y'all are sleeping on the Concord remaster. Hard to sleep on something that's not even awake, but okay. At the start, your TTK is lower as your weapon is stock. So, sure, you are aware, but important to know as the feedback is always mixed on TTK. Marathon's not the COD killer, it's the Bungie killer. I had a guy leave a remark today, and he said, what did he say? He left a comment, and he was a long-standing member. He said something to the effect of, like, I was making too much Bungie content. And I was like, huh? What are you talking about? He said, you've been pushing for its cancellation for months. It's not getting canceled after one beta. Sony literally said it's launching this year. So he's talking about Marathon. He says, I gotta say, the constant Bungie-focused output is getting a bit much. My Bungie-focused output? What do you mean? I covered the PlayStation strategy, Mafia the Old Country, Battlefield 6, PlayStation 6 leaks, Lost Soul aside, PlayStation 6 leaks, Battlefield 6, Nintendo, Destiny 11 days ago, Phantom Blade 0, PlayStation hurting the brand. What are you talking about? Where's my Bungie output? I don't know what he means. Now, there was a while ago, 2 months ago, we did like 3 Bungie uploads kind of in a row. But that was like 2 months ago. when Marathon was the hot topic because they stole artwork, and we were like, what's going to happen to the game? And 2 singles come in from Stonespire. You guys know what Stonespire's doing. He's like, boys, let's get back to what makes this place so great. We are a 20 bomb away from the first 100 of the week. Who is going to steal it? Who's taking it? We're 20 away. Nice setup, Stonespire. Last time I checked, it was 6 or 9 videos in like 6 or 8 months. That's what I'm saying. I was like, you know what the problem is? It probably is the algorithm. He's probably only consuming that kind of content, so that's the only videos he's seeing for me. And he thinks, yeah, you just keep putting out these videos about Bungie. I'm like, brother, you've missed out on like 25 videos and streams. What is, like, listen. There is not a rhythm here that's deducible. We're all over the place. We're all over the place with the topics because I can't control what's going on in the news feeds. 2 months ago we had some back-to-back uploads on Marathon, but man, that was the relevant topic. What do you want me to do? They set the world and themselves on fire. They looked really stupid. And listen, I mean, if watching Chris Barrett's baby kind of crash and burn, if I have a little bit of a voyeuristic entanglement there, so be it. I mean, you get it, right? Like, come on. Like, allow me a little self-indulgence as I observe the downfall of people and a company and employees that were unbelievably terrible to me. Like, incalculably terrible to me, Forgive me if I cover their downfall a little bit. Like, every once in a while I might talk about it. Jiminy Christmas. Can you believe Lono actually spoke about that every once in a while? And a 20 bomb comes in from Kat. Kat says, we will not be deterred. Currency conversions don't matter when you got people that want to support and are generous. And there it is, the first 100 of the week. Thank you, Kat. And I missed Dynamite Black. I'm going to make you the agent of chaos, Dynamite Black. You're going to bump us to 101. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the Member Plus. Thank you so much. Guys, one of the best ways to offset some of the challenges we are facing is to just pick up your own membership for $6 a month. I mean it. That is a huge antidote for the situation that we're facing. So thank you very much. Well, no, if people don't like what you're talking about in your videos, then why do they watch? Well, no, I could understand somebody being like, hey, man, why are you suddenly on this hobby horse? Like, if I did 10 streams in a row about Bungie and 10 uploads in a row about Bungie, it would be completely legitimate for somebody to say, hey, I subscribe to a variety gaming channel and you won't let up on this Bungie topic. I think that's legitimate feedback. His feedback isn't legitimate because it's not accurate. Do you see? Like, you're always able to give me feedback on my content. You're always able to say, things like that, and I'll try to take it and think about it. I can't take what he said and apply any lesson from it or any adjustment because it's like, it's not an accurate assessment of my content. What do you mean? I've barely covered the Bungie situation. There are people that went in on Bungie and Marathon for like a straight week, and we got in. We got our hits in, and we got the frick out, and we started covering other things. Been absent lately, just enjoying my retirement. Well, enjoy your retirement, Kat. Prop your feet, you know what I mean? Live it up. Put an extra slice of cheese on your sandwich. You know what I'm saying, Kat? You do it, lady. Like, you do you. You get out there and live. I'm more confused. Are you saying you want to keep the 39? Oh, you guys are talking hardware. I was like, are you talking to me? We're not allowed to talk about gaming companies in this gaming news channel. This is correct. Also, the news was Sony news that happened to include Bungie. That's true. There was some Sony news that did happen to include Bungie. Right, the takeover. I mean, again, what do you want me to do? They said in an earnings call they're taking over the dadgum company, which that's like one of the best thumbnails I think I've ever made. I wasn't really sure what I should put on the thumb, but man, that picture of Cade, it just really brought it home. Like, look at him. Look at him. That turned out really, 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 really well. Now, those of you that were supporting this, by the way, we really appreciate you guys that like the live stream, but also support the highlights and the shorter videos. My reaction to the Kasurigama did very well. The Bungie takeover video did well. This one about PlayStation games and live service didn't do as well as I thought. I did switch the thumb to Marathon instead of Concord because people probably thought the Concord topic was old. And then Battlefield skill-based matchmaking. You know, I appreciated it, though. Like, I was trying something new, and you guys supported it, and I greatly appreciate it. I really, really do. If you guys see those uploads in your feeds, man, give them a watch, give them a comment, give them a like. That is a super, super helpful thing. And this is a helpful thing, too. Mick D09 gifts a member and gets us to 102. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you, Mick D09. And we're 25 likes away from 300. So, guys, get to work on that like count, man. Smack it. Give it a big smack. Did my app break? Yes, it did. I was like, there is no way YouTube literally just stopped. It's continued to kind of like sign me out, and I'm not really sure why. Okay, there we go. I should start seeing your guys' chats again. I wasn't seeing anything after what Kat said. Let's see here. 20 shows a month, 4 hours per show, 120 episodes over 6 months for 480 hours of coverage. Those 6 Bungie episodes are just too much, bro. Thank you, Brett. I'm saying, like, come on, man. Like, cut me some slack here. Yes, how dare you talk about the things that happen. Imagine telling someone what they should show. Again, I think the algorithm got him. I do. I think he wasn't seeing my videos. I don't think he was seeing the videos. I think he only sees that kind of coverage because that's the topics he's most interested in. So he's like, man, I haven't seen much from Reforge lately, but every time I see him, he's talking about Marathon, he's talking about Bungie. And it's like, well, yeah, because I talk about them when they're relevant, you know. Question submitted here from Frank Last. This is a feature that you guys can leverage as a member. He says, do you think Battlefield 6 has had enough time to make any positive changes for the weekend beta? I'll tell you what, if they're smart, let me clear the question queue, by the way, because there's some old questions in there. If they're smart, I don't think they would make any swift adjustments. I would make minor adjustments if I was them. No, I mean, I'm not in charge. They don't got to listen to anything that I'm saying. But I would not make big adjustments. Now is the worst time to start swinging the pendulum of change, you know? Now, they did say they're going to look at how intense the sniper glints are because people thought they were a little bit too intense. Given the propensity of sniping in the game and how many people are sniping in some of the maps, especially the map, Liberation, whatever, you know, I don't know if they're going to feel justified toning it down. But one of the developers did speak on Twitter and said, the sniper glint is here to stay. We're going to make adjustments, but it's not going anywhere because people were complaining. Can you imagine if there were no sniper glints? How much of a nightmare that would be, like on a map like that? You would just spawn and be like, oh, seems like it's pretty nice. Go, dead. Oh, okay, I just got into the game. What should I do? Dead. Like, you got to be able to see. You got to be able to see those sniper glints, right? You might as well shoot a flare every time you snipe. This is true. This is true. But you need something inherently risky. Like, you have to have inherent risk with that level of power. You can't just be like, no, it's fine, you know, sit on a hillside and no one knows you're there. No one knows what you're doing. Like, there has to be some level of inherent risk going on, you know. I don't know. Here's another thing we're wanting to experiment with. We're wanting to experiment with, well, no, we'll do that later. Never mind. It's too early. We are going to start shifting chat to Member Plus and above, just to give that special thanks to the folks that are doing that and maybe motivating some people to upgrade if you want to keep talking. But we'll do that later in the show. So now's a great time to consider upgrading so you're prepared for that. Instead of like breaking and switching to a whole new segment, we may try that. UWA Talents with the $2 super chat says, will Battlefield 6 Battle Royale be free? As far as we know, it'll be free from what we've heard, yes. I don't think they have officially spoken to it. Someone in chat could correct me here. I don't know if they have officially spoken to this and said whether or not it will be free. You'd be insane. I mean, I'll just say it. You'd be freaking insane to launch a Battle Royale in 2025 and not make it free. Like, I don't think you would stand. I just don't think it would work. I don't think it would work. I mean, how on earth would you fill the player funnel? Who's going to pay for a battle royale in 2025? I feel like they learned their lesson with Battlefield 2042. Like, Battlefield 6 is going to be a premium product that they're going to sell, okay? It's got a campaign, team deathmatch, and classic Battlefield modes, a whole host of content. It's got Portal. It's got all that, right? That, I think, people will feel like, okay, this is worth a purchase. I don't think you would get away with that with a Battle Royale. Here's a purely PvP. Here's a purely, non-mainstay purchase item, because in many people's mind, that's what Battle Royales are. Battle Royales are free to play. Battle Royales are live service games that's where they land. They're free. So I don't think they would be able to get away. Like, if Battlefield 6 Battle Royale is not free, I don't feel like you'd be able to garner enough people. I don't think you'd be able to garner enough folks to come in and play. It would murder your turnout. Like, a Battle Royale needs a super, super big full funnel. Does that make sense? Would making sniper glints more visible fall under the accessibility issue? I don't think it would fall under an accessibility issue. Accessibility, as far as I understand it, is about making the game playable to people who may have, motor skill issues, or they're missing digits on their hand, they're missing an arm, they're missing a hand, they play with their mouth, right? What's his name? Rocky No Hands. They're wanting the ability to play. That's what they typically want. They want the game to be accessible to them. They want those barriers removed, like, colorblind modes, things like this. Sniper Glint is more of a balancing issue, as Eugene is saying, because you're essentially saying you have to have risk and reward. It's like when you're playing Valorant and you want to use an ability or you want to do a certain thing, there's inherent risk in line and in direct relationship with the reward. You do something, it makes a noise, somebody knows you're around the corner, right? You're taking the risk to get the information, to get the ping, to get the wall out, to do whatever. And then your location has now been somewhat compromised. And that risk is then a tactical choice. Is it worth it that I take this risk at this time for map control, for a potential kill, for whatever? So I think a sniper glint is the same thing. It's a latent risk that you're taking so that you don't just sit there and long scope and long peek, so that, anybody who walks by, you're already locked in, ready to go, ready to crack off a shot. No, you're taking an inherent risk by doing that. That, I think, is the appropriate approach here, to think of it in that regard. You can't constantly be like, oh no, that's totally fine. Give somebody something that's really, really strong, but there's no inherent risk. Whether it's a rocket launcher, a sniper, a shotgun, or whatever. The weapon design is built around the philosophy of risk and reward, always. How fast you can raise it to ADS, how fast the fire rate is in relation to damage, what's the spread, what's the recoil pattern, what's the reload speed. All these things are wrapped up in the balance of the weapon. And if you've got a weapon that is that strong, sniper rifle, you've got to almost balance it externally as well as internally. Does that make sense? The weapon stability, how long you can hold your breath, how far it zooms in. These are all elements of the weapon's balance, and there's got to be external balancing as well, and that's where Sniper Glint comes in. Because if you can be that far away and I can't see your head because you're kind of blending in, we know that like head peeking is a problem in these games, because like you don't have to stand all the way up and be visible from like mid bicep up, which would be more realistic. Typically your head is all that's visible, which is another problem that would be that would pose the balance of a sniper rifle. If you basically can just barely peek your head out and have the most lethal weapon in the game, and you're taking almost no inherent risk. 95% of your character model is not visible. That, I think, is an issue that they've got to look at. That's where sniper glints come in. I think that's a key in the discussion, is that are they analyzing that? The other key in the discussion is sightlines themselves. Like, this again comes with the external risk. The external risk of, like, your position, right? So if your position is, well, I'm going to position myself here, and then I can see everywhere. I can see spawn points. I can see this. I can see that. That's another problem with the inherent balance of the maps and the weapons. You got to think about sight lines. You got to think about spawn locations. If you're spawning at A, B, and E on that map, and you're just like out in the middle of nowhere, and you immediately see sniper glints, that's a problem. They should maybe be spawning you up against, an object, up against a building, inside of a building, so they can't see you. Think about it like this. If I can see you the minute you spawn, I've got a significant advantage, because now you've got to move, but I've already seen you. If you spawn in a building and then you run by, to more cover, that's more challenging for me as a sniper, right? I've got a smaller window of time for target acquisition, which works against my ability to effectively snipe you. Now I'm doing more suppression than oppression. Like, I'm not actually killing you, but I'm keeping you sort of under fire. But then, if you're a smart player and you're moving building to building, you could then potentially take the area. The problem as it stands is that the sniping on that one particular map holds too much sway over the combat. It's like that's all people are doing. And when you end up with a meta that gets that one string banjo, it's like that's just the one note of that map. That's going to need to be looked at, because nobody's going to enjoy that. That isn't fun. You've got a game full of depth, variety, breadth, and all this different stuff, and you've got everybody playing basically the exact same weapon, the exact same meta, the exact same positions. So, the risk to reward, like once people have a lethal sniper, well, I mean, the sniper out of the gate seems pretty dadgum strong. I mean, at least in my experience, it seemed pretty dadgum strong. I don't know. Okay. The mountain map is good for snipers, but the OBJs have a ton of cover. They do, so that's why I'm saying they're going to have to think about spawn positions more than anything. There's a significant shift in the power dynamic when I spawn in cover and can now make decisions, as opposed to spawning, seeing sniper glints, and immediately I'm scrambling. Like, that power dynamic, it immediately shifts if I spawn and I'm in cover and I have a few seconds to kind of consider my options. Does that make sense? They're removing recon spawn beacon, so I'd imagine them being less annoying in the future. They're removing? Moore's Law is dead. Release a short video about PS6 and the next Xbox. It's about 10 minutes if you want to react to it. How old is the video? I have a video about the PS6 versus the next Xbox that, well, I was probably going to release tomorrow. He did it 20 minutes ago. That's too early. I'll save this for later, though. I appreciate you putting it on my radar. I'll throw it in the Discord. I don't like reacting to a video that someone literally just published. Even though Moore's Law is dead is a much bigger channel than mine, I do not like doing that. I like to let his video minimum, I like to let a video live for one day before I react to it. That's just my own conviction about, reaction style content. So I do appreciate you putting it on my radar, though. I've saved it. I thought they were moving the recon spawner to the assault class. Yeah, I don't think they're removing it. They were probably making adjustments to it. Removing it would be... That's why I said don't make sharp changes right now. don't start swinging that pendulum. They should be making like minor adjustments to see the impact that it can have. There's zero chance they're removing the spawn beacon. Yeah, I don't think they would remove it. I would imagine they would make adjustments to it. Yeah, that's a token of the franchise, is it not? Being able to have a spawning beacon. You know, if you guys have just tuned in, we've been talking about Battlefield 6 versus Call of Duty. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, smash that like button. We greatly appreciate you guys supporting the channel to the degree that you have been lately. And they're giving it to Assault. They're moving it to the Assault class? Did they Afropunk? Did they explain why they're doing that? I would love an explanation as to why they think that's the right approach there. What do they think that's going to do with respect to the balance of that particular item? They feel like it being on recon is the problem. That one's interesting to me. There's an article. Let me find it. Okay. Yeah, you can just tell me who wrote it, and then I can look it up, and we can take a look at it, because that one's really interesting. Give me a second here, and I might even be able to find it myself. Battlefield 6 moving the recon. What's it called? What did you guys call it? What's the name of the item? I'll just put moving the recon. Moving spawn beacon. Recon's the class. Moving spawn beacon. It's being moved from the recon class to the assault class. This change, along with other class reworks, aims to encourage team play and coordinated squad movement. The deploy beacon will also have limited uses and will self-destruct after a certain number of spawns. I thought that would be what they would do, is they would say, we're gonna limit the number of times you can use it, or the number of times it can be used, so that it eventually despawns. It sounds like after so many people hop in on it, you're gonna lose it, and then that's probably gonna limit its power and sway. You could get a really good spawn point as a sniper and just keep spawning your team in. It makes perfectly good sense, right? Well, with some of the cheese that I'm seeing out there, you know, that we're seeing people figure out how to get up on like bridges and stuff. That's an issue. I mean, you're going to have people doing that. You're going to have people, you know, getting up in cheesy spots, dropping that spawn beacon, and then that really, really harms the experience. We've had a good run game, boys. Game is going to shoot itself in the foot before the game even comes out. Can you explain the sort of that doomer perspective? You're being a little doomsday. You might being sarcastic? If you're being sarcastic, that's fine. If you're being serious, I'm curious what you mean. Why would you think this would be so dire as them making this change? Prevent snipers from controlling the map. It's a good thing. That's a massive change after the very first beta. Okay, so you think it's too big of a change. Okay. I mean, that's fair. That's fair. I did say one of the things I would think they would want to avoid are big sweeping changes. Like, you don't want the pendulum swinging too early. That can certainly create a difficult... It can be difficult because then players don't know what to expect. Right? Editing a class after one beta, yeah, it's over. So you don't think that's going to be an approach going forward, that they're going to have to be making these types of changes and adjustments to the classes themselves? You see what I'm saying? Like, they're fundamental to game flow and player power, player volition. You don't think that should play a pretty significant role? They decided to do this before the beta, apparently. Insert reference to Battlefield Friends episode. They ruined Battlefield. Yeah, seems a little. I mean, it seems a little exaggerated. I mean, I'm not the expert here, so I'm considering and taking in, feedback on it. Not this fast is all. Okay, so you think it's just too fast? I will admit that one of the dangers would be them making like a change every other week. Yeah. What's the goal of the beta? I would say to unearth issues, to unearth problems, to, try to rectify these types of things. Here's the thing. They could do this in the next beta and decide it's an overreaction and switch back. But that, again, is exactly what my concern would be. You start to do these pendulum swings, and if it's too much and it swings too much, what you end up with is a player base that's a little bit disoriented. If you get disoriented and kind of confused, and you're like, wait, I don't really understand, what are the classes supposed to be? Where are the items supposed to be? What's my outfit supposed to be? What's my strategy supposed to be? If you swing the pendulum too high, you can disorient the player, because one swing of that pendulum means it'll likely swing back in another direction due to the ramifications of the changes that they have made, right? It's like the butterfly effect. One minor change is going to potentially cause a bunch of other things as well. It's a beta. It's like preseason. Take wild swings. You're in the testing phase. I would say that what Zubair is saying is probably the best pushback. That this is the time to swing the pendulum, so then maybe they can land with more measured decisions when the game launches. Because maybe if you're going to do it, now's the time. Is it unavoidable, right? Are these big sort of, impactful changes necessary? Because how else are you going to find a solution? And then once you launch the game, you've got enough data to say, okay, we're going to make more minor adjustments and tweaks, but we think this is the best way for the game to land. Maybe Spawn Beacon ends up back on the recon, and they really limit its use. Maybe they're trying to find that happy medium of like, well, we don't want to limit its use too much, but we also don't want it to be paired up with a class that has such long-range power. Okay. Okay. Yeah, but not right now. I'm working. All right, Mama. I think the beacon is fine for assault. I can tell you how many times recon is 300 meters away with the spawn beacon next to him instead of close to an objective. Yeah, that's. I think that's fair as well to say. That's kind of an inherent balance. Winged Wheel gifts a member and keeps the member count going. I tell you what we should do this week, boys. We should try and go for the gusto. Let's go for double the daily quota. We're already at 100. Let's go for 200. Let's really bounce it back. We are back to our roots. Every 25 I am gifting. All right? Every 25 we are back to our roots. So keep it going. Get those setups going. Get those renewals going. Get those primes going. Y'all are the best. We're gonna recapture what has made this community and channel so generous all these years. And everybody that's contributed today, man, thank you for doing that. Although the total's not right over here, 82.18. I believe we're missing 3 here. There we go. Yeah. The dev said the spawn beacon was made for flanks, not lone wolf snipers. Okay. Assault crouch sprint is awesome. They want to try and make the assault frontline leaders instead of being the lone wolf class. Right. They want to sort of maybe ground them a little bit more in a team play oriented thought process or strategy. I get that. Yep. I get that. That makes sense. Because I definitely fell prey to that when I played. I definitely fell prey to that when I was playing. It's very easy to do that. It's very easy to just spawn and go, spawn and go, spawn and go. Now, I was trying to go with my teammates. I was trying to follow my teammates, but I wasn't even thinking about that. Like, well, let me get dug in somewhere and drop a beacon. There were a couple of times where that may have made a huge difference, right? Like, there were a couple of times I got into pivotal positions, but I was by myself, and if I would have gotten to that pivotal position, dug in, hid, dropped the beacon, it would have changed my approach. It would have changed where I run to. It would have changed my location. It would have changed all those things. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think there's something to be said for grounding a player. Like, you're almost like nudging them. You're almost nudging them with the equipment itself. You're letting them, you're letting them kind of discover the strategy by way of the equipment being like, hey, have you ever considered this? Have you ever considered not just running to A, running to B, running to A, running to B, running to C, running to C, running to D, running to D, instead of being like, no, I'm going to take a more tactical approach here, dig in, and kind of get my boys, close to the objective. I remember playing that way, or me and my buddies playing that way. There were certainly times where it felt like that was the best approach, was a more quiet infection. Like, let's sort of just try to infect certain points on the map. They need to push if your support revive your bros. Yeah, there's been a lot of vocalized frustration about revives, right? Either not being revived and laying there and waiting, or I was making the mistake of I was just respawning myself. I wasn't giving people a chance to revive me. I think there's complaints on both sides, which makes sense, because if you're trying to revive and nobody is letting you, or if you're hoping to get revived and no one's reviving you, yeah. And calling out is hysterical. Every time I called out for a revive, the lines were so funny. I'm effing hit. Like, I don't know why. The intensity of the call outs were fantastic. I loved them. Did you all know there was a compass buried in the settings? Way better than the minimap? Really? Maybe I'm alone in this. I want the minimap. Can you move the location of the minimap? Can you put it up in the left corner? Am I the only one that feels like the minimap down and away is harder to look at? I don't know why. It's easier for my eyes to go up, down, up, down, up, down, like up to that corner and back down. Like dragging my eyes down to left corner and up feels slower for some reason. I don't know if there's actual science to back what I'm saying. Is it muscle memory? Is it, generally speaking, when you're looking at the landscape in front of you and you're playing a shooter, looking up and to the sides makes more sense than looking like down? Like you're generally not going to be like aiming and like checking like bottom corners. You're going to be like looking up into like windows and stuff with your eyes, not your character's gun. Agree, I don't like the minimap location. Also, Battlefield 6 players, be sure to turn on compass in the HUD settings. No idea why it's off by default. Yeah, somebody just said that. How big are the maps compared to the previous Battlefield games? I don't think we've seen all of them, but I'm fairly certain we've seen enough to know they're aiming for very similar sized maps that they've traditionally built. We've already established that you aren't good with change, Mr. Inverted Controls. I'm not good. It's not good for bifocals, says AOZ. Yeah, what about all of us old dudes that need bifocals? All minimaps should be top right. Top right or top left? You know? I want to make it bigger. Pause. All Battlefields have put the minimap there? Really? They have said these were the smallest maps? So the Battlefield 6 beta, they're the smaller maps. Jamal says, I'm not the kind of guy that complains about women in video games, but I do find it weird that I'm playing a male character and I hear a female's voice when I call for a medic. Do you think that's a bug or a glitch? That doesn't make any sense. If you pick a dude, why would you be calling out with a different voice? That sounds like a bug. That doesn't sound like they intentionally are like, I mean, when you call out for help, you're going to call out like a little girly man. Like, I don't think they're going to do that. You know what I mean? If you go down on the battlefield, die. Don't call for help. Be a man. Like, I don't think that's the goal. They're trying to disincentivize people from calling for help. I'm not going to call for help. That's woke, you know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just going to die like a real man, you know. I don't know. I think that sounds like a bug or a glitch or something. Support was a female? No, he's saying when he calls for support, his voice changes. I don't know. It's. I would say that's an accident. I don't think that's on purpose. You know, going to the doctor is woke. You know, don't call for help. We'll probably check out that game tomorrow too. Actually, the is it released tomorrow? I feel like there's a game tomorrow that releases that end, whatever it's called. Did he get shot in the throat? I don't know. Let's go ahead and look at the releases calendar. Let's see what we have coming this week in particular. Yeah, Echoes of the End is tomorrow, as well as Hellblade on PlayStation 5. We'll be checking out Echoes of the End tomorrow then, probably. That'll be like our second segment. That'll be gameplay. I feel like there's something else this week, but I could be wrong. A Midnight Murder Club's this week, and so is that Drag X Drive game for the Switch, where you're like in the wheelchair playing basketball. Look like a creative game. And the 15th. No, I don't know why I thought there was something else this week. Sword of the Sea is next week on the 19th, as well as Voidbreaker, but that's early access for Voidbreaker on PC. The 19th, Wukong goes to Xbox. Morbid Metal goes into early access on Steam. I played the demo of Morbid Metal for paying members. That's a great reason to consider becoming a paying member to the channel. You won't miss out on some of those things. And then the 26th is Gears Reloaded, Helldivers on Xbox. And then we got Metal Gear on the 28th. And then Kirby's getting its update DLC on Switch 2 on the same day as Metal Gear. And then August 29th is both Shinobi Art of Vengeance as well as Lost Soul Aside. If you've not checked out the Shinobi Art of Vengeance demo, it is worth checking out. It is fun. I really enjoyed it. Did I miss the news? You did miss the news, Haseo. Good to see you, though. You didn't miss the fact that we've returned to our roots. Every 25, I'm going to gift. You guys are the absolute best. So thank you so much for another strong start to the week. I'm going to make sure that's kind of in the middle. It's kind of was kind of triggering me. It was just a little higher than I wanted it. It's still anyway. Jaguar says, I played every Battlefield since 1942. Get on the Discord and speak. Your opinion matters. Yeah, I would imagine they want to hear from people, on the various elements of balance and guns and kit and gear. It seems like they're listening. I know that's kind of become a cliche in gaming now to say we're listening. Yo, what's good, Dan? Good to see you in the chat. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you guys for 300 likes on YouTube. I greatly appreciate that. He's played Battlefield since 1942. That's dedication. That was the Battlefield that me and my brother and my roommate played. Oh my gosh, we played that game so much. It was so fun. We really, really liked it. The devs always respond to me on Discord. I wish I could get the RoboQuest devs to respond to me in their Discord, but, such is life. Oh, I'm happy to report that my wife and I have officially beat Returnal together. We made another run. We ran through Biome 4. We were so strong at the end of Biome 4 and had such good builds. It was like 11:30, and I told her, I said, I think we should beeline to the Biome 6 boss. No side rooms, no triangle rooms, just rectangle doors. I said, I think we can do it. And we did. And it was friggin' close. That final fight still almost got us. So, but our builds were too good. We had too much healing. Like, she had leech rounds and something else that was healing her. I had something that was healing me. I was like, we got to make a run. And unfortunately, we burned both of our astronauts before the boss. Those guys that shoot like the red heat-seeking things, I got caught on a corner and got hit by so many of them in a row. I was like, I died almost instantly. It was super weird. It was like I'd never died that fast. So we burned our astronauts before we even got to the boss. Just won't leave it alone. My wife and I beat Returnal. Yay. And all this Bungie output. Just shut up, dude. I'm sorry you haven't beat the game yet, Hilly. Hilly, that could be our Friday segment. I could get the game on PC, and I could try to help you beat Returnal. right? We could call the segment Helping Hilly, right? You know, if you ever get stuck in a game, I can come and help you. As long as it's a game that I'm actually good at, like Returnal. I think Battlefield 6 looks great, but with COD included on Game Pass, it's hard to switch. Mainly I play campaign now. Yeah, we've been talking about that, just like how much Call of Duty has to do to capture and keep people's attention, and what that's going to do to folks that are like, well, you know, Battlefield feels like the new car. Like, you know, Hilly's been saying it's a brand new car. If you take a lot of attention away from Call of Duty, just a percentage of the player pool, you know, they'll lose. They'll see that as a threat. Don't get the game on PC, Lono. Seeing good graphics is going to ruin the console version for you. Shut up, Zubair. You need help with Returnal? Returnal is actually harder on co-op. Like, I'm actually not going to be able to help him. It would be fun, but the truth of the matter is, it's harder on co-op. Multiple times during our runs, I would have been so stupidly strong if I had access to all of the items. Like, it is. And the bosses and the enemies and the spawn rates are definitely harder with two people. It spawns more enemies. It spawns more elites. The enemies are more aggressive. They attack more. It is definitely harder. Returnal is actually more difficult on co-op, which makes me kind of proud that we were able to beat it, because Returnal is like one of my all-time favorite games. So being able to share that with her was, like, I think, kind of fun. You know, Manny plays on PC with a $5 super chat, says, I'm a few minutes behind, but yes, minimap needs to be moved up. It's so annoying. I don't even look at it during the match. Right? I don't know why, but I can't, when it's down in the corner, I can't do it. I can't do it. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't like it. I need it to be up and to the left for some reason is my instinct, is like where the map should be. You know? Maybe adding a drag revive would be smart for COD though. I hope dads play Battlefield 6 and G Fuel snorting teenagers prefer Call of Duty. Of course, Hilly. You want me on that line. You need me on that line, right? You want all of us dads out there playing. You know, all these gatekeepers and weirdos that like want to make fun of casuals like me, you better be careful, because you really want us in there padding those servers, you know? We're not just padding the servers with our dad bods. We're padding the servers with our mediocre stats. Like, you want us in the player funnel, okay? Don't shame us out of gaming. You know, you'll miss us when we're gone. You will miss us when we're gone, dude. When we retreat to the safety and the safe harbor of single player games, you'll be like, man, I kind of miss all those guys that used to come in here and not play all that well. You know, they really help things feel less sweaty. I mean it. You're gonna miss us when we're gone. You missed the first half of the show? Well, feel free to ask a question now about anything that I covered. We covered Battlefield 6 versus Call of Duty. We covered GTA 6's price. We covered the lawsuit that Sony's got against Tencent. I mean, there's a lot going on. I've been kind of perusing the news feeds. Nothing has really stepped out and broke. We will be checking out tomorrow Echoes of the End. This here says if GTA doesn't sell 70 or 80 million copies or whatever GTA 5 sold, then that's going to signal something. Claire Obscure Expedition 33 is a strong signal that players don't just want live service games. BioWare veteran says, but GTA 6's success will be a real indicator of the industry. Well, it's a strange way to phrase it, because GTA 6 is not inherently a live service game. There'll be plenty to play. In a recent interview with YouTube creator Mr. Matty Plays, Dara is asked if he has any concerns about the current state of games industry, and he suggests that we're seeing and the economy of games. Amid ongoing challenges for developers to find investment for their projects, layoffs painfully prevalent across companies, for better or worse. He says, I mean, last year it was survive till 25, and this year was definitely put the lie to that, because it's more brutal this year than last year, because everything that I can see, he says. Seeing the small money, like the people that invest in very early starts of projects and studios, And that's starting to come out of the shadows again. But then this year seems shakier than ever. Excuse me. He points to live service games of, let's see here. Let's just pull this up for you guys. He points to live service games and says that the reason we have so many is ultimately because of successful live service of Fortnite makes all the money, and Microsoft and EA and Ubisoft and Sony and all these companies would be perfectly happy. In fact, they would be more happy if they each had 5 live service games that made all the money and no other games. I'm just going to say right now, this is not true. EA and Ubisoft and Sony and all these companies, they would be perfectly happy. In fact, they would be more happy if they had 5 live service games that made all the money and no other games. This isn't true at all. No. Because none of these companies would declare that you don't need brand ambassadors or like really strong single player games. This is absurd to think that. Like, I don't even think Microsoft thinks that way. Even with their publishing strategy, I don't think they would think that way. We'd rather have 5 live service games and no other games at all. I don't think so. I think that's very, very short-sighted. But we don't want that. He continues, I don't think anyone who plays games really wants the industry to look like that. But from a business perspective, that'd be awesome. You know that you only have to worry about 5 games at your publishing organization, and then one will start to slowly decline, and then you go and you can start to hunt for the one that's going to replace it if it eventually dies. Or as it eventually dies. I don't want the industry to look like that. And I kind of feel that maybe people are starting to signal with their wallets that they don't want it to look like that either. I don't think they're starting to signal that. They have always signaled this, Mr. Dara. If you look at games like Zelda, and Spider-Man and other single-player games like Hogwarts Legacy, it's very clear that single-player games have never really taken a back seat here. Now, if you purely look at player behavior, it can start to look very dark and dismal. But the facts are the facts. Look at the sales charts for the last couple of years. We're not returning to some glory days of the single-player game. Single-player games have been doing well for a very, very long time. It's interesting also coming from somebody who tried and failed with Anthem at a successful live service game, right? I don't know. I would ask why they thought they could pull it off with Anthem, unless Anthem was never meant to be that, and he feels like they were pushed towards that. I mean, that's one of the issues with Anthem. Isn't he the guy that was on Anthem? Wasn't he the guy on the team? Yeah, he talks about what really happened with Anthem. I've not had a chance to watch that video yet. I don't. Number one, I don't think any of these studios were like, all we want is live service. We'd be happy if we had nothing but live service. I also don't think any of these studios, or any of the, I don't think the industry, I don't think is like, oh yeah, we're finally having that resurgence of single player games. Like the single player games have been selling well every year. They're topping the sales charts all of the time. When 2 of your best sold games in a year are Hogwarts Legacy and Zelda, I don't think the industry is signaling that people don't want single-player games. They've been signaling that they want single-player games for a very long time. Many of us have been arguing that like, look at the sales charts. You don't need to all put your money and all your backing behind live service. You can have successful single-player games. This is an overcorrection. He has a good breakdown of what went wrong with Anthem. I would love to watch that. We could maybe bump that to tomorrow, because I saw that in my feed. Hang on, let me pull it up and see. Mark Dara on games. Oh, it's his channel. He did it 6 days ago. It's an hour long. That's like a whole live show right there. We almost have to save that for like a rainy day. I would be so interested to see what he has to say, but that can't be like a brief reaction tacked on to the end of a live stream that we're already doing. That would have to be its own show. That's only part 1. That's part 1? I thought part 1 was the timestamp. That's just literally the first video on it. Jiminy Christmas. That's unbelievable. It'll be very, very interesting if it highlights a lot of what I sensed when I went to some of their events. You know what I mean? Tomorrow's forecast, rain. That's right. That's right. The Fall of Anthem. Season 7's out in June. That's good. That's good. Yes. Yeah. That's excellent. Way too many outsiders placing big bets. We all know why Anthem failed, TBH. Well, it would be interesting, though, if he could give us some of the inside baseball that maybe Jason Schreier touched on that we've always sort of been a little bit in the dark on. Like, we don't know exactly why it went through so many iterations and changes. We just know that it did. You know what I mean? Some of the inside scoop on the origins of those things, you know, and also some of the inside scoop on like why they were not able to turn everything around, you know, why they couldn't figure out a path of, you know, content structure and delivery, you know, with Anthem 2.0. I always felt like the game had a lot of potential, you know. I felt like there was a really, really squandered game. In my opinion, I think Anthem is one of the most squandered games ever because the combat and the feel of that game, I still haven't played a game that feels like that. Moore's Law is a new video on Xbox and PlayStation 6 video pricing versus release date leaks. Yeah, we'll have to save that for another day because it literally just went up today. I don't want to react to it. I like to let a guy's, you know, hard work live in the algo for minimum 1 day before I watch the content. The last time we reacted to Moore's Law's video, I didn't even react to the entire video. I only reacted to like 10 minutes of it, of like an hour-long thing. I never want to serve as a replacement. I never want to harm a video in its infancy. I don't like that doesn't happen too much on the platform, but I never want to be one of the people doing that. So once a video hits 24 to 48 hours, especially if I'm not going to react to the entire thing, I think it's safe. I prefer it to be like 3 days later if I can, but sometimes the topic's too hot. If the channel is my size, I would wait even longer probably. I'd wait 3 days. A channel that's much larger than mine, minimum of a day. I like to let it live for a day before I react. If I can. Now, if it's gameplay or if it's like a repost on like a huge conglomerate channel that has like millions of subscribers, I'll react to it right away. I don't give a frick. It's like, come on, that's just reposted. That's not even yours. But like a content creator's video that they put time and effort into and edited it and wrote it and everything else, I like to wait. So. Make sure you guys are hitting the like button. Make sure you're celebrating your renewals, your primes, all the things. We have a great start to the week. I didn't realize I was letting those things run constantly for you guys over there on YouTube. I just paused it. Sorry about that. I was letting you know I've been here all along. No, you're good. Somebody told me about the video earlier, Jaguar, as well. Yeah. Your noob tech guy? Oh, yeah. You guys now, your handles are showing instead of the names that you selected. So if you want your name to look different in chat, you're going to have to go and change your handle, which isn't that difficult to do. But, you know, that's the... that's what they made. They made a change to that recently. Not really sure why. Moore's Law isn't dead. They're just focused on a bunch of new features these days. Well, the name of the guy's channel is Moore's Law is dead. You could ask. You know, I guess I'm certain he could speak to why he named himself that. It could be a more of a joke, or it could be serious. Maybe he truly believes that. Haley says, "Come to the promised law, Come to the promised land over here on Twitch." Yeah, especially if you guys are paying for Prime, you can go over there and you can support us over there. I'll argue that Moore's Law is dead, says Zubair. Transistor density isn't growing like it used to. It also wasn't a law, it was a theory. Yo, what's good? The Haggis King, how are you? I see my name showing up different all the time. Oh, so Chopper Eric, the reason for that is some channels don't have it yet. Like, you can go into certain channels and live streams, and it'll show your name that you selected instead of your handle. As far as we can tell, they're rolling this out site-wide. Eventually, any live stream you go into or any comment that you leave, it will show your handle. It was a little confusing for me at times. I would like upload a video and I'd be reading the comments live on the stream. And I'm like, all right, let's see what this person has to say. And it's like, oh, it's Viking King 225. And I knew that it was somebody else, but it was showing me their handle on the comments instead of me, instead of showing their name. So I would get really confused. Now, that's not like a huge deal. They didn't need to make the change for me. But, excuse me. But I will say they certainly have helped in that instance where, like, I'm reading a chat comment, or I'm sorry, a comment on an upload, and then someone's in my chat with the same name, like they actually match. It was really confusing. So you'll have to pay to use your channel name, probably. No, it's just your handle. Like youtube.com/Chopper Eric would take me to his profile. Instead of, like, he could be here as like Eric the Dominator, and I would have no idea what his actual YouTube name is. Does that make sense? Like, that's not like a major issue, but it certainly is an issue that, like, and you could certainly do impersonations as well. You could, like, change your name, and then you could change your profile picture, and you could show up to a stream, and nobody knows that you're not really that person. People were 100% doing that to me in some chats. They'd be impersonating me. Like, I remember it was like a Sunday, and somebody left a comment, and they're like, "Did you do da-da-da-da-da?" And I was like, "No, I've not even been on my phone for the last 4 hours. What are you talking about?" Well, it was somebody impersonating me, because there's no way to know who is in chat. Now, the streamer can know if they, like, actually click on the name, but yeah. Our handles have to be unique. That's why I've got my middle initial now. Yeah, your handle has to be unique. You could make your username, like, in chat. You could make it literally anything, and that was the problem, is you could do, you know, base level impersonations. So that was the issue. So to protect the channel creators, I don't think that's the only goal, but it certainly is. Like, impersonation's a lot easier if you can go into a chat, change your profile picture, change your name, and, you know, nobody can tell who you are. Because as a chatter right now, you can't click on anybody's name and, like, go to their profile. Like, you don't have the ability to do that. I do as the streamer. But, like, let's say all of a sudden, you know, Omar changed his name to, I don't know, like PewDiePie or something, and it looked like he was in chat, okay? You can't check. You can't click on him. Mods can. Oh, I didn't know that the mods could. Hang on, I'm getting an update on something. Okay. Sorry, we have a family member that went through a surgery, and I was just getting an update. Why am I the example of committing a crime? Because you deserve it, you know, and you know what you did. And I know what Stone Spire's going to do. This guy's like, it's been too quiet for too long. He's going to do two singles. He's going to bump this to 105. There it goes. Another one. He wants the 20 bomb to 125. We have returned to our roots. Every 25, I am gifting to the platform that hits the milestone. And our man Stone Spire has set up another piece of bait. We will see who takes it. Whoever hits it gets it, whether it's Twitch or YouTube. That's who gets the gifted. And right now, YouTube's been running away with the day. But listen, this is an opportunity to steal back Purple. You can steal back the gifted from them. We'll see if anybody takes the bait. Thank you, Stonespire. He is so faithful in setting those traps and setting those baits and dangling. It's like somebody wants to. He's already done it multiple times today. If anyone knows how to effectively commit a crime, it's an attorney. I think that's a really well-made point, Adam, which I think we should investigate him. I mean, that's, I think, a very compelling argument that Omar should be investigated. For what? I don't know. He probably did something. Like, I mean, that's my assumption. Why? He's a lawyer. I mean, come on. That automatically makes him suspicious. I mean, I don't, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of lawyers here that are like, hey, I really don't appreciate this. You know, you're kind of blowing up our spot here. And a single gift that comes in from Joker Quinn. He is ensuring that the 20 bomb is an agent of chaos. We'll see if anybody takes the bait. Thank you so much, Joker Quinn. Another one of the single gifted kings around here. Use the Claymore, says Purple. I'm so sorry, says Hilly over there on Purple. Lawyers in the chat, how you doing? He's very defensive. We need to take a closer look. See, Zubair, I know how Zubair, if you've ever played Mafia, Zubair is the one who quickly turns on his other teammates. He's like, we should investigate this. We should look further. Like, aren't you a lawyer? Well, let's not talk about that. Let's keep the attention on the matter at hand. And the matter at hand is how suspicious Omar is. Like, just immediately turns on his own. He's like, sorry, brother. You know, got to survive out here in these streets, you know. Brother. Oh, I was trying to get a neck pop. I really was. Omar says, Zubair is whispers from Hoodlum. Now, we don't need to be throwing out that kind of nonsense, okay? We don't need to be throwing around that kind of slang in these... I would appreciate it if you didn't use that kind of slang in my chat, Omar. You know? Hoodlum? Come on, dude. Anyway, Omar is a deaf person, goes into court and still get called a hearing, asking for a friend. That is a terrible joke. It really is a terrible joke. Zubair didn't see injustice. He saw billable hours. This is correct. That's a deep cut reference. It really, really is. It really, really is. I need a quick break. The ads are going to run, and while they're running, I need a quick break to run upstairs. I've been sitting in the chair for almost 3 hours. We're trying to let these streams last longer, just to give you guys more content. And if you like that and you want to show some appreciation of longer shows, a great way to do that is to smash like. Hit the like button, renew your stuff, use your primes, use your renewals, you know, slam home those gifteds, all those things. It's a great time to do that when we're extending these streams for you guys. All right, I'll be right back. I'm back. All right, let me pause those things. All right. Well, we've kind of gone through it. We have gone through it, chat. We've gone through the news. Let's see if there's anything else going on out here. We got new info on Echoes of the End here. 14 to 15 hour single player story. That's the 1 hour range here is weird. Like usually it'd be like 14 to 20 or something, like 14 to 18, but 14, 15. 20 unique enemies. Developed by a team of 40 devs. 4 character progression skill trees. 10 main chapters in the game, and each chapter in the game has a distinct environment and visuals. We will be we'll be checking that out tomorrow. That'll probably be the second segment of the day tomorrow. So make sure you're subbed for that. Make sure you're ready. Okay. And the Spine Gunfu game doing some more updates and some more blogs. Still no release date from them. Check out this exclusive trailer for The Rift Breaker, the sci-fi base building survival game forthcoming 2.0 update, which brings a co-op mode. Why do I feel like that already had co-op? Oh, Rift Breaker is not what I think. Okay, that's a base building tower defense game. I did not realize that. I was thinking of another game. Sorry. It was one, my daughter played it. Lightyear or something. What was the name of that game? You're like a mech survival. Pretty sure you could play it co-op. It was something Lightyear Frontier. Is it Lightyear Frontier? Is that the game I'm trying to think of? Any news on what enhancements will be there for Hellblade 1 on the PS5? I mean, 60 FPS is one of them, but that's an update that's also coming to Series X as well. Yeah, Series X. So don't know if they've done like an official list anywhere, because they're bringing a lot of enhancements to the game. Hellblade 2 enhancements. 60 FPS mode, a new Dark Rot challenge mode, enhanced photo mode, and developer commentary. It's going to be available on all the platforms, but the 60 FPS performance mode will only be available on the PS5 and the Series X. It will not be available on the Series S. So, yeah. My news feed's a little one-sided. Battlefield 6 open beta is live. Open beta is live. Open beta is live. Yeah, there you go. Try putting something up while you're away. Don't have a video playing while you're gone, but have like an engaging song or something so your chat isn't just looking at a chair. Just some suggestions. What on earth would I put on the screen? Like, I don't know what would you expect to happen when a streamer takes a break, other than like put up a trailer or something. But since ads typically run when I take a break, I don't know. That seems counterproductive. You know? Feet pics. Now, there's uncharted territory. Feet pictures, maybe. Question submitted by Perfect Image says, do you think PlayStation needs a new genre of first-party titles so the majority of active users can gravitate towards? Just thinking out loud. I don't know what you mean. A new genre of first-party titles? What do you feel like all their first parties are the same genre? Like, I don't think like Helldivers 2 was the same as Horizon. Like, I don't think Horizon and Gran Turismo 7 were similar. I don't think like Ratchet and Returnal aren't similar. I'm not sure what you mean. I feel like they hit a pretty large gamut of genres with their first-party efforts. I don't know. Like, I can't think of a genre that I mean, right now they've got one coming that, again, that they would consider to be first party effort with their publishing, with Marvel Tokone Fighting Souls, a new one. What do you mean? Do you mean a new genre that doesn't exist yet? Is that what you're saying? I think we might be, maybe I'm not understanding. Are you saying a new genre that hasn't been invented yet, or are you saying a new genre they haven't used yet? Like, do you feel like they're doing the same genres too much? Like, your question presumes a point, and I don't know what point you're presuming. He said yes. I asked a lot of questions, so now you're going to have to specify which thing you're answering yes to. Answered yes again. Yeah, again. You're going to have to type out which thing did I say that you're agreeing with. He's typed yes again now. So yes 3 times in a row. This is wonderful communication that we're having here. I need you to type out the thing that you're agreeing with. All 3? I don't remember everything I said. So can you just, can you type it? If it's not too much, if it's not too much trouble, can you type it? He means narrative-focused third-person games. Ghost Horizon, God of War, Spider-Man. Yeah, but even those games I just feel like they're very different. I mean, like, Spider-Man and like Tsushima and Horizon, they're all open world at least, and they're open world action. I don't know. They still feel very different to me. Like, genre is there's so much room within a genre, I think they need a first party FPS. Yeah, I think that's a challenge for them to be motivated to do that. And one of the reasons that's a challenge for them to be motivated to do that is that so much of their player base, so many of their users are like locked into Call of Duty. Trying to get people to tear away and to play. They're working on one called Exilage, and then another one called, I forget the name of it. Something. They got 2 China Hero Project games that are third-person shooters that could end up being successful live service efforts, and especially if they can get those games to be successful in the Chinese market, that could be significant for PlayStation. One of them, again, is called Exilage. I forget the name of the other one. It's something Guard. Something Guard. China. Hang on. All right, China Hero Project. Let me pull it up here. Oh, let's see. Exilage and Brocade Clad Guard. Is that the one that I'm thinking of? No, that's the wrong one. Hang on. I got the wrong. It's Unending Dawn, I think. Is Unending Dawn the one I'm thinking of? No, it's not Unending Dawn. Unending Dawn is like anime meets... What am I thinking of? There was Exilage, and then there was one other one. There was another one that was like... Oh, Convaleria, I think, is the one that I'm thinking of. Yep. Sorry. So let me show you Convaleria and Exilage. So this is Convaleria. So this is one of the games from the China Hero Project over there. I'm going to skip ahead here. There you go. So some sort of a intersection, I see in this trailer, I see a lot here. I see, let me see if we can't get that resolution to be a little bit better. I see influences from like Outriders. I see influences like First Descendant. So this has potential, I think, especially, you get the Chinese market to get behind this, get a lot of PC players, What's up with Hell Is Us? There's a demo tomorrow for Hell Is Us. I just realized we may be going 3 wide tomorrow. We may be doing 3 streams tomorrow. Obviously, live service. Obviously, you got multiple people playing. Seems like it's going to be based around abilities as well as weapons. And I think it looks good. I think this one looks like it has a lot of promise. So that's Convalaria. And then this is Exilage. So this is another one that has the potential to be, some Remnant 2 vibes here. Is Creature back yet? Yeah, he's back. What's good, Giant Doctor? How are you? This is a little bit more Remnant vibes. But again, possible hit here. There's some First Descendant influence as well. Some of that Outriders, some of that, over the shoulder. All right, let's get into the action here. A little bit more of the boss. This one is this not multiplayer? I don't know why I thought this one was multiplayer. Maybe it shows later. Yeah, this is like Final Fantasy 16 meets like Outriders a little bit. You got these big giant boss fights. This one might actually not be multiplayer. Not sure. Maybe they show. Yeah, that looked like somebody came in to help. Yeah, I'm not seeing other players listed or shown on the screen, though. Yeah, I think she's like a companion. I don't think she's another player. Yeah, I think Exilage is not meant to be multiplayer. Third-person shooting. Okay. So a shooter, but again, you said first person. I don't know if there's any first-person shooters from their publishing efforts on the horizon. I don't know. But those are 2 third-person shooters that we know are on the horizon. Yeah. Okay. Couple of questions here. Oops. I turned the goal off. Adam says, what's a game genre that you're not interested in now but have open to trying in the future? I mean, obviously turn-based got my attention with Expedition 33, but like the games that I really don't mess with are like driving games, fighting games, sports games, the XCOM style games. I don't know if I'd be open to them. I just don't really have a desire. Like if someone's like, yo, you got to check out that NBA or that Madden or that dude, that racing game is so awesome. It's just probably not going to happen. My backlog is, again, just far too full. Like, I'm still working on First Berserker Kazan, and that one, I think I'm like 70% through at like 22 hours, and then there's other games that are soon to be here. I mean, Lost Soul Aside is almost here. Then we're going to be right into the throes of Borderlands. And then Yote will be here. I don't see a strong impetus to like experiment with genres outside of what I know I enjoy when I have so many games that I still need to play. We're going to turn Lono into a Street Fighter 6 player. You watch. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. I'm just seeing what would help PlayStation. Why do you think they need help? Like, I guess I don't know. It feels like the question is asserting something negative. Like you're asserting a negative thing. Oh yeah, they need help. They're not doing well, or they're missing something. Like what? Why would they need help? Like, they just had an earnings call where, like, everything looks great and strong and growing and going up. And Death Stranding 2 charted, and Yote will likely chart. Lost Soul aside, could potentially be their big first play in the Chinese market. What do they need help with? They've got Marvel Tokone Fighting Souls coming. They've got, Helldivers 2 and Gran Turismo 7 and MLB The Show. They're hitting a lot of genres. They're hitting a lot of genres. I don't know why you would think they would like. I mean, it'll always help to add more games. It'll always help to add more genres. I'm just not seeing the vacancy. Like, do you sense a vacancy in their lineup? Outside of first-person shooters, I'll grant you that. If they put co-op in, Lono's down for anything. This is kind of true. You know what I mean? Like, you buy me a drink and, we'll hang out for a minute. I'll give you 5 minutes of my day. You put co-op in your game and, I'll give it a try. Mafia the Old Country's awesome so far. I thought the opening was so good and so high quality. It was just really slow for a game that's only 10 hours long. Like, they take a minute to set up, like, the shops and the currency. And then somebody in my Discord was like, oh, yeah, you don't really engage with that all that much. That's more for, like, your second playthrough. I'm like, that's kind of weird, isn't it? That seems like they put an awful lot of effort into something. Like, the scope of the game that they lay the foundation for feels like a game that would be longer than 10 hours. Right? I wasn't, and I think people maybe misunderstood too. Like, I wasn't being negative, like, oh, this game stinks. This game's bad. It was, this feels like they were building a 20-hour game and something happened. Like, they were laying a really, really great groundwork. They were laying really, really great foundation. And then they were just like, well, it's going to be a 10-hour story. And as far as I could tell, the story seemed good and the characters seemed good. And, the whole thing felt like it was at a very high quality. But it also felt like this is a slow start for a 10-hour game. I played for 2 hours and I felt like I didn't do much. I felt like I hadn't really done much gameplay. I hadn't really done much, of other than holding the stick forward. You know what I mean? And people seemed to enjoy it, and so I wasn't trying to take away from anybody's enjoyment. I was just like, man, this feels like it should be a little bit of a bigger game given that slow start. You may like the Dragon Quest or Octopath Traveler games for turn-based stuff. They're long JRPGs, but seemingly worth the investment. Yeah, I don't feel the draw to turn-based. Expedition 33 was certainly fun, but, Expedition 33 is also in the Game of the Year discussion. 10 hours for 50 quid seems steep. There are a lot of games that are in the 12 to 15 hour range that are not 50. They're historically speaking, there's a lot of single player games that land in like the 12 to 15 hour range, and they were $60. So I don't necessarily balk at the price point. I more, again, took issue with pacing. When it's 2 hours of primarily watching, listening, and holding forward on the joystick, and you make me do that for roughly 2 hours, if suddenly the game opens up, you let loose, and now I'm diving into like a 12 to 17 hour game, like, oh, okay, I've got another 12, 15 hours or so to go. But when I'm done with those 2 hours and I'm like, oh, there's like 8 hours left, and that's the pacing, that's what felt off to me. The pacing felt like, oh, this is the introduction to a pretty big and long game. And people are like, well, the Mafia games have always been like this. That doesn't take away from what I'm saying. Like, they've always been kind of short. Oh, okay. Do they also not really let you do much for 2 hours? Like, listen, if people like it, I'm not taking away from that. Because people seem to like it. It's got a good score on Steam. It's got an 88 on PlayStation. So the score has gone down a little bit on PlayStation. It was in like the mid 90s, and now it's in the high 80s. So some people have dropped the score a little bit. And it has a 71% on PC. So that score has come down a bit. Okay? It's got 71%, and that 95, 96 on PlayStation dropped to an 88. You know, it dropped 7 or 8 points on PlayStation just over the weekend. Again, I don't feel like I'm being unkind, and I don't feel like I'm being hateful. I feel like I'm being very, very fair to the game, that they built a very, very quality slow burn opener, and it feels like it should be attached to a much larger game. And it's not a problem. I don't mind short games. But if you're going to do a short game, you're going to do a 10-hour run, I feel like you kind of got to get out of my way and get to the goods a little quicker. So that's all. As an 1886 enjoyer, game length and quality enjoyment don't always correlate. Journey and Abzu are some of my favorite games ever, and you could get done with them in a couple of hours at 20. Yet to me, game length isn't the question. Game length isn't the question. The question is pacing. You know? Like, how long are you making me sort of, trudge through? This was something that I talked about with the opening of vanilla, and this is still the case, vanilla Cyberpunk. I have said that even as large as Cyberpunk is, I think it takes too long to get out of like the tutorial part of Cyberpunk. 4 or 5 hours. Phantom Liberty is perfect in my mind. It sets the stage. It's bombastic. You've got gear. You've got weapons. It's very, very well done. I thought Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty is like a taste of how they would open the sequel. Like if they do a sequel to Cyberpunk, that's how you open it. Let's get to business here. And then you can slowly introduce me to the systems as I'm playing. Especially make sure if you're going to introduce me to systems, make sure those systems matter. And it's not like some elaborate tutorial for something I'm going to do once or twice and never again. Like another gross scope creep mistake that I think is baked into the crust of the opening of Cyberpunk. So similarly, in Mafia the Old Country, they spend an awful lot of time setting certain things up that I think feel attached to something larger, knowing that once all that's done, I've only got 8 hours of game left. That to me feels like a misstep in the pacing department. We're not talking about quality, right? We're not talking about writing or voice acting. The quality is there. The quality of Mafia the Old Country, I would say, is undeniable. I don't think you could deny its quality. It's a matter of pacing. Last game I had that had bad pacing was probably T-Lu 2, but it's possible I don't even know what bad or slow pacing is since JRPGs are my favorite genre. I took issues with the pacing in T-Lu 2. I did. Yeah, the way they make you interact with Abby, I thought was poorly done. I think they should have warmed you to those waters a little slower and a little bit more gradually, and then you might have been a little bit more, in line to play as her. I was like generally and very genuinely annoyed that I suddenly had to play as her. Didn't like it. Thought they could have done a better job with that. Thought they could have done a better job with pacing. And there are people that disagree, with me. And now you can do the chronological mode, and somebody reviewed the chronological mode, and they were like, Yeah, it ain't that great. You don't really get to do anything for like a really, really long time, which is kind of what I'm getting at. Kind of what I'm getting at is you make the player wait that long. That's an issue, you know? I think that's an issue. Just so you know, I'm not hating on the titles that PS5 Gen created. It's just genre heavy. Watch Dogs 1 and 2 is a Ubisoft game. Ghost 1, what Sony could do to get more market share. Huh? Watch Dogs 1 to 2 is a Ubisoft game. What are you talking about? Why are you bringing up Watch Dogs? I'm extremely confused by what you're saying. Same question? I don't understand the question. What does Watch Dogs have to do with PlayStation expanding their genre footprint? Watch Dogs 1 and 2 are not... Like, I don't even think PlayStation has games like that. He's talking about expanding the customer base by offering more than the narrative experience they're known for. But they do expand their customer base with games like Gran Turismo 7 and MLB The Show. And, I mean, even their publishing efforts with China Hero, with the games that I just showed you a little bit ago, Convaleria and Exilage, those are first-party games. They're not first-party studios, but those are first-party games because those are publishing efforts from Sony. I feel like you're ignoring... You get me? Right. He's understanding your point. My response to your point is you don't seem to be paying attention to the things that they're actually doing that are what you're asking for. You don't count Helldivers 2 as a break from what they're known for to expand their footprint? You don't think Lost Soul Aside, Convaleria, Exilage, all those China Hero Project games, you don't think any of those are an attempt to expand their footprint? Number one, in a market where they have no presence, but also into genres they're not really known for? Gran Turismo's been around for a long time, so you might say, well, that one doesn't really count. But again, that's a pretty big footprint for them. That's a pretty big, potential grab of the market. Yeah, Astrobot was a giant departure from what they are known for. Again, I think that you're almost ignoring the very things that you're asking for are honestly in pretty good supply. It's not like they've been ignoring all these other potential genres and potential, avenues of, game types. There's been plenty of diversity, but most of those games don't have the fanfare of, say, TLU. Yeah, but just because Returnal didn't sell as many copies as TLU, that's the point, though. They're doing the thing he's talking about. They have done the very thing he's asking for. A lack of commercial sales for a brand new IP is kind of par for the course. You can't expect Returnal to compete with the likes of, The Last of Us as a franchise. That would be insane to expect that. Helldivers is smashing big giant bugs. Okay, well, you're being reductionist. Helldivers is a genre that PlayStation wasn't really in. A third-person PvE co-op live service game. They don't have a Helldiver sitting somewhere prior to Helldivers 2. They don't. That's new. That's new for them. I don't know. They didn't have a Returnal. Soros is coming as the spiritual sequel to Returnal. That's a genre that's they're number one, they're not really known for. There's not a lot of games like Returnal out there. There's almost none. I don't know. Astrobot is a perfect example of what we're talking about. I don't know. I agree there's nuance, but if we had to categorize them at their core, They are third-person action-adventure games? Yeah, okay, they have a lot of third-person action-adventure games. I mean, we will grant that point. I don't see why we would shy away from that. But I think that doesn't mean that there aren't a ton of other genres and games that they have clearly shown an interest in. You know, first-party VR game in Call of the Mountain, Astrobot. And again, you have things like MLB The Show. You have things like Helldivers. You have things like Gran Turismo 7. And then I just showed with the China Hero Project. You have third-person action-adventure game with a gun in third-person shooter in Exilage. Then you got Convaleria, which is third-person like live service. It looks like it's going to be sort of like almost like an Anthem, almost like an Outriders style game. I don't know. Outside of like a first-person shooter, I don't see what they're missing. Yeah, Marvel, Toko, and Fighting Souls. They've got a fighting game coming. They reduced Ghost of Tsushima and Horizon to the same game because there was a main character with a bow. Yeah, we've all seen the bad faith buffoonery out there. Yes, we've seen that. We've seen people make ridiculous claims about how they're basically the same when the presence of the bow in Tsushima is like not even a secondary. I mean, it's like a very, very minimal amount of the combat. And then the bow in the, Horizon is like central to the combat. You know what I mean? It's like, that would be like saying, well, Aloy can do melee attacks. That's basically the same as Tsushima, because Tsushima's got, it's melee-based combat. Like, the amount of melee, the amount of melee in Horizon is not, it's like they're the opposite of each other. It's fair to engage in his point because the casual gamer might feel that way. The casual gamer is not paying attention to any of this. Do you think the casual gamer knows the difference between a first-party, second, and third-party game? All they know is their PlayStation has tons of games coming to it. They know that, PlayStation, if they're paying attention and they see the PlayStation Studios logo pop up, or the, PlayStation Publishing, they're going to see Helldivers 2, they're going to see Gran Turismo 7, they're going to see MLB The Show, they're going to see Returnal. These are all games in different genres. They're going to see Astrobot. I don't think the casual players are tuned into this, like attempting, and I'm not saying you're doing this, Lobo, but like attempting to invoke casual players while talking about this is a bit of a conflation of categories. Casual players don't know any of this stuff. They're just playing games. I agree with you. Yeah, I don't know. I think their games are very similar. I just think that's just such a reduction of the games themselves. I don't think, like, if I look at the games that I've put the most time into, like Ghost of Tsushima and Returnal, they're nothing alike. And then when I go into like Spider-Man and God of War and Horizon, they're nothing alike. Camera position is really going to determine what you're going to think about a game. So you're going to say that like Hades 2 and Diablo are really similar? You wouldn't say that. That would you would be an idiot if you're like, yeah, no, Hades 2 and Diablo are very similar. They're basically the same. Or to say your phrasing, they're very similar. No, they're not. The camera position is similar, and that's it. The camera position of Returnal and Tsushima and Ratchet and Horizon and God of War, the camera position is the only thing they really have in common. Pretty much everything else is very different. The combat systems, the method of storytelling, the investment, the skill trees, they're vastly different games. Camera position does not determine a game's quality or even its categorization. Like, that's so simplistic. Is every first-person shooter Call of Duty? No, we would never say that. Like Doom and COD and Halo, exactly. No one would say they're similar. That would be idiotic. To be like, well, all Xbox is doing is first-person games. Their biggest games, Call of Duty, Doom, and Halo, they're all very similar. No, they're not. They're completely different identities and iterations of a first-person shooter, as is the third-person camera position of all the games that we're discussing. Yeah, like The Witcher 3 and Red Dead Redemption. No one would say No one would say that these games are similar, but the camera position's the same. That's what these games have in common. Like, the analysis is a centimeter deep. It's not even an inch deep. The analysis is so superficial. It's just like, well, the camera angle's the same, so they're the same. It's like, what? We don't do this with any other game. You wouldn't do that with any other game. In order for PlayStation to break free of the past stereotype is pushing more of the variety that they've been doing more recently. Which, again, if you actually play the games, though, Victor, again, it's such a superficial claim. It's like we're not actually analyzing the games. If you think Ratchet, Returnal, Horizon, God of War, Spider-Man, like their big five, I would say, during those first batch of years, these games are nothing alike. Like the camera position's the same, and that's kind of where it ends. I don't know. Like, you wouldn't say that, like, Hades 2 and Diablo are similar. You would be doing superficial analysis. Well, yeah, the camera angle's similar. The games themselves are not. Like, since when is game analysis, categorization, or genre, reduced to where the camera sits? I don't know. Like, yeah, like Indiana Jones is first person, but it's not like any first person perspective game I've ever played. It had similarities to, like, maybe like Dishonored, but like very minor. I mean, almost non-existent. The sneaking and the hitting people with stuff, like, it was like almost no similarities whatsoever. I agree, says Victor, but the people pushing those stereotypes unfortunately aren't playing the games. Well, here's the thing, Victor. The people pushing the stereotypes, it's not just that they're not playing those games. I don't think they're playing games, period, brother. I think a lot of these people are playing Twitter. I cannot imagine looking at the first-party efforts from PlayStation this gen and being like, the games are too similar, we need more variety. Okay. Apparently, Helldivers 2, Stellar Blade, Astrobot, Returnal, all the games we've listed, they're all too similar. I don't know. On this subject, boys, we are going to take a brief break. I got a video right now premiering about how PlayStation is not abandoning hardware. So please click the link in chat or ride the redirect, and then we'll end up in Green Room. All right? Use that link in chat. I'll see you guys over there. It's not a long video, but I talk about how PlayStation is not abandoning hardware. All right? Use the link or ride redirect.